So hey anime fans, the series name is What If Naruto Love His Pervy Stepsister Gwen Tennyson. This is second part of the series, so let's start the series. It was 4 weeks since the day Gwen was kidnapped, and both Naruto and Ben met with the Konoha shinobi. Ben was persistent on having him tell them who that wired red-haired girl was and why they were after him. Naruto as a compensation asked Ben to bring up his left hand and he'll answer. Something that he did immediately, but it was too late for him to change his mind once he figured out what his brother wanted, since Naruto already grabbed it and completely shut down the master control of his Omnitrix. It was only then Naruto proceeded to tell Ben about his life in Konoha and about his twin sister, and since Gwen was clinging next to him afraid to be too far away from Naruto, she was listening in as well. As he told his story, Ben and Gwen listened intensively, wanting to know about his past. But as he was saying more and more, they were disappointed at how it ended, with Gwen hugging a depressed Naruto and Ben not knowing what to do, promised to be there for his big brother, but at least they knew not to trust those ninjas. Enough about the depressing stuff. Naruto decided to continue teaching Ben on how to control one of his aliens, but as thanks for helping him with the Konoha flunkies, he unlocked an alien for Ben that he took an instant liking to. Ben called the alien Feedback, an alien that could do almost anything with electrical energy, be it absorption, redirection, flight, enhanced speed, electrical-based, enhanced strength, electrical-based. Ben really liked this alien, especially when he fought against Naruto's Bioshock, a Yeti with lightning-based attacks. Ben was really improving with his aliens, something that made Naruto happy. So far, he mastered XLR8, Heat Blast, Gray Matter, Feedback, Rip Jaws and Wild Mutt. The aliens unaccounted for were Upgrade, Ghost Freak, Four Arms, Diamond Head, and Stink Fly, and Naruto decided that it was time to train with Stink Fly, and currently he, Gwen, who was still clinging to him, and Max were in the RV driving through the desert while Stink Fly was flying directly above them. So where to next, Grandpa? Naruto asked. I thought it will do you wonders to visit my older sister, Vera, Max said to the kids, who were suddenly irritated for no reason. And Vera? Naruto asked, dreading this visit already despite not knowing who she was. The only reason I know I'm going to like this visit is because of the teasing Ben's going to get from her pinch of doom, Gwen said. Naruto was still confused as to who Vera was, but he decided that he had to see her before he started to judge character, because judging someone based on relation isn't worth the trouble for him. So where are we going? A squeaky voice asked from above them. Vera's, was the reply from the RV, and as Ben heard that, he whined in annoyance at being reminded of her. This visit better be interesting or he'd leave immediately. Undisclosed location. In a room, 9 holographic figures came to view, each unable to be made out because of the uniqueness the hologram had to offer when one accomplished the requirements needed for this technique. We have gathered here today to share our findings concerning our current targets. So far, we have yet to know the location of some, but others were fairly easy. Like, we can deduct that the Nanabi resides in Taki, the Ichibi in Suna, and the Sanabi is currently fighting a war in Kiri. Speak your piece concerning your observation. The one that sounded like the leader spoke. The Rokubi and Gobi were very hard to locate, but we managed to track them. The Rokubi is currently hiding in the mountains near Iwa, while the Gobi is currently hiding somewhere only a select few know in Kiri. But with our spying, we can capture him while he's busy blowing those useless bubbles of his. White/black, Zetsu said. Thank you, Zetsu. Anyone else? The leader asked. The Yang of the 9 Tails has been found, Itachi said, if only for a little while before he was lost again. Where did you find him? The female of the group asked. He was at Nami no Kuni. The hologram of Kisame spoke. I managed to spot him after my fight with Taijutsu specialist, Might Guy. It seems that the 9 Tails has evaded us yet again, the leader said. Why don't we just kidnap the fucking shit's brat of a sister? An image holding a scythe asked. Because, you idiot, she is heavily protected by her village, being the Hokage's daughter. I thought that serving that useless god would grant you a brain, the image to his left said. Hey you asshole, don't you dare insult Jashin-sama. The image from before said. Haiden. Kakuzu. Stop bickering like children, it is unbefitting for you, the leader said, but what Kakuzu said does bring merit. We need to be stronger before we can start our operation. He then looked around the room. In 3 years, we start the extraction of the Jinchuruki while evaluating their skills and progress as shinobi. Failure is unacceptable. Hi, everybody said. Konoha. For weeks after Wave. Ever since the Wave mission, Nami had been in a depressed mode, and once her father tried to get information out of her, He was ignored, so he had to get from his one-time student, Kakashi. Shock was the expression on his face as Kakashi told him what happened during the mission and as he went to the part where they met Naruto, and it was pointed out that he had a little brother. Minato now saw the reason why his daughter was depressed. His son all but abandoned his family. But who could blame him? After the way he was treated, Minato was surprised that he didn't leave quicker. Still, he was impressed with how Kakashi handled the situation nicely, that is until he got to the part where Naruto appeared. He decided to leave Naruto alone for now as they had more pressing issues to deal with. With Ino. Ino as of lately was a depressed girl. Why? Because of one reason, Naruto. Yes, she was aware that she was his first friend and vice versa. They were very comfortable around each other, that is until Naruto had to go and tell her his full name, something that made her ignore him once she knew who his family was. Till this day, she regretted making that decision because it was part of what drove Naruto away, and she couldn't help but feel guilty. Just as she was about to continue sulking, the door to her flower shop opened, and in walked the one that shattered her friendship and possible boyfriend in Naruto. A small part of her despises Nami for that, and it still does, but the rest ignored it, willing to be her friend. Hey, what's wrong? Ino asked. My mission to Nami no Kuni 4 weeks ago, Nami replied. Why, what happened? She asked Nami, who just stood and relaxed on the counter. I met Naruto. Well, if you call that a meeting, Nami explained. You met Naruto and didn't tell me? Ino demanded/asked. You never asked, Nami said. Anyways, as it turns out, he all but cut ties with his family here since he has a younger brother that has the same powers as he does, and I'm quite sure that the family has treated him better than we ever did. Well, I say that you deserve it, because of what he had to experience when he was younger, Ino said, ignoring the fact that that statement caused a sting of regret to her friend's heart. Next time you'll know not to ignore any member of your family again, but I don't know how that feels since I'm an only child. You know that you also added to the hurt that was already in Naruto's heart, Nami said. I know, and I regret it terribly. I couldn't help but think that if we continued our friendship, could we be something more? Ino asked. Anyways, what are your plans? Nami asked her friend after deciding to change the topic. I want to get strong enough to be able to face Naruto on my own since I heard that he fought for Anbu and the Hokage and won, Ino said. I still don't know how he did that at the age of 9, but yeah, I want to do the same thing, and we know that by then, we would be able to apologize for the way he was treated, Nami said. Both could only hope in what the future could bring, wishing that it will go well for them and their family. With the Tennysons. Max, a voice said, and they turned to see Aunt Vera walking to them. Vera? Max greeted as he walked and gave his sister a warm hug. I can't believe you're finally here, Vera said as she hugged her grandchildren, but as she saw Naruto, she was confused and looked to Max to explain. This is Naruto. He's Ben's big brother who was in school by the time they visited you last, so I thought it might be nice for him to finally meet you, Max explained to his older sister. Isn't that lovely? I didn't know Ben had an older brother, Vera said as she went to hug Naruto and pinched both his cheeks. Hello, I'm Vera. It's lovely to finally meet you. The pleasure is all mine, Naruto said as he was released from the death pinch of Vera. Come on in. I can't wait to chew the fat with all of you, Vera said as she invited them all into her house, unaware of her neighbor watching her from his window blinds. Sniff. Ugh, why do old people's houses always smell like somebody's cooking socks? Ben asked after he whiffed the insides of his auntie's house, that is until Naruto smacked the back of his head. Manners, Naruto chided to his subdued little brother, much to Gwen's delight and Vera's approval. Later. Vera, this is delicious. What are these brown chunks in the mold? Max asked as he complimented his sister's wonderful cooking. Well, in his books at least. Pork chops. A happy Vera answered, glad that someone liked her cooking, and the white parts are flowers, she said. And that was all Ben needed to stop himself from eating, that is until a conversation between he and his auntie started. So Benjamin, what have you been up to this summer? Vera asked her nephew, who was poking the food in his tray. Kicking alien, but Ben replied to his auntie. Oh, you. Vera chuckled and waved it off as if it were a joke. That is until Gwen got her attention by asking about the birds in the shelf and making weird noises with her auntie, further increasing Ben's decision to leave the area, so he excused himself and went to the bathroom just as Naruto entered the room and sat on his seat with Ben. As he closed the bathroom door, Ben was panting in fright. I gotta get out of here, he said. Then he grinned as he remembered the watch on his hand. He pressed both dials and a flash of green light later. Ghost Freak was standing in his place. Meanwhile, Gwen, Naruto and Max were in the living room with Vera as she was presenting her seashells to them. Gwen herself was too excited at what she was seeing. And this one is a Valetiana, can you hear the ocean? Vera asked as she gave Gwen a seashell. Gwen placed the open end of the shell in her ear, trying to listen to the ocean as her aunt advised, but she heard something else. Loser, loser! The voice from the shell said in a creepy tone that startled Gwen a bit, especially the chuckles that followed after, but then she saw the shady outline of her cousin as one of his aliens. Ben? She hissed, loud enough to catch Naruto's attention, who just snuck out of the living room. See ya. Wouldn't wanna be ya, Ghost Freak said as Gwen was looking at him fading through the wall, leaving an annoyed Gwen in the company of her aunt and grandpa, with Ben. As Ben faded out of the house, he was looking around the estate he was in. There has to be something fun to do around here, he said, and he spotted a golf cart not long after. Sweet. Ben then turned invisible as he was driving in the golf cart, spooking the citizens around him. As he was driving, his nose caught an intoxicating smell and proceeded to check what it was, unaware of the figure trailing him. He snuck up on a window blind, spying a freshly baked apple pie cooling off. But as he was about to take a taste of the sweetness of the first fresh meal he'd had in months, he spotted an old lady through the window trying to kill a fly with a swatter. As it stuck on the ceiling, the old lady dropped the swatter on the ground and jumped on the ceiling, stuck on it with her forelimbs and chomped the fly. Ninja old people, a surprised Ben said. Then he quickly left the area, but unfortunately bumped into another figure that seemed to be using his intangibility as well. And where do you think you're going? A raspy cold voice asked, and Ben saw an alien that was half human, half insect. He had a red body with black and white spots on his arms and legs that resemble ice chunks, a light red torso and large green eyes. He also had 3 pointed fingers and a thumb on each hand and 2 toes on each foot, and a third toe-like extension on his ankles. Ben would have attacked this alien had it not been for the Omnitrix symbol on his chest. Naruto? He asked. I asked you a question, his older brother said, arms folded over his chest. But as Ghost Freak was about to answer, he spotted an old man in a golf cart with a rug in the boot driving by, heading for a puddle of water that he could just drive across. But instead, he avoided it as quickly as he could, even avoided the sprinkles that were followed after. Did you see that? Ben asked as he flew past his brother to follow the old man. Naruto's eyes followed his brother, as he was moving before he sighed and spread his red wings to fly after his brother, both still intangible to the naked eye. Ben followed the old man to what looked like a gate with Naruto hot on his trails. He saw the old man enter through the gate as it was opened, and he followed. As he was about to follow the old man, as the old man pushed away a garbage bin that was hiding a set of floor doors underneath, his Omnitrix symbol started to beep, something that Naruto noticed as he was inspecting what the old man was doing. Naruto quickly grabbed his brother and pulled him out of sight of the old man just before he, Ben, flashed back to his human form. You know, if you hadn't taken off the master control a month ago, I would have seen what he was up to, a disappointed Ben said as he placed his hands in his pockets, pouting. Don't think you're getting off the hook, Ben. You still have to answer as to why you left the house rudely, Naruto said. Oh, I forgot to ask, what's this one's name? Ben said as he was inspecting the moth-like alien trying to divert his brother's attention. Although this adds nothing to our current conversation, his name is Big Chill. I decided to change it from Siberian because Siberian sounded unintimidating, Naruto said, and Ben agreed with him before Naruto had to pick him up and fly both of them to their auntie's house for some rest and an explanation that Ben seemed to be avoiding. With Gwen Tennyson was interested in something, and when she is interested in something, anything trying to divert her attention would fail. Today, she wanted to find out something. Was she special? Did she have any hidden abilities? How was she going to find out? By Naruto's mask? From his explanation, the mask is supposed to know when one has a special genetic trait in them. It does that by scanning one's DNA on its current wearer. If it comes out positive, it activates and becomes a full-body suit based on what ability the current wearer has, and each person could be different, or the same. Ever since a month ago, Gwen was self-cautious around others that are not Naruto. She would feel uncomfortable should she be with anyone else alone. That's why she stuck with him whenever he was close by. But she decided that in order to be free of mind, she needed to learn how to defend herself more than she could. That's why she needed to go to the RV to look for the mask, something she was currently gazing at. As she was about to put it on, She heard Ben complaining and looked outside to see a moth-like alien carrying her idiot of a cousin, and once she knew it was Naruto. She placed everything of his back to how it was, vowing to herself that should she have the chance, she would find out for sure. She calmly left the RV to her auntie's house because it was getting late, and she wanted to sleep in a comfy bed. In the house, "Grandpa, Gwen!" a voice yelled as he arrived at the kitchen, and both individuals looked to see Ben rushing to them with a moth-like alien that later detransformed to Naruto. "Your Aunt Vera's in bed," Max said. "Seriously?" Ben asked. "It's like only 6:30 in the afternoon." "Never mind, listen, this whole place is creepier than I thought. First, this old lady scales up a wall and munches a fly. Then that weird next-door neighbor is an E.T. or something with a face at the back of his head, and Ben, you snuck out, and Vera was hurt," Gwen said, scolding her cousin. She'll forget it, she's old." Ben waved off. "Okay, I say I go 4 arms and check out Marty's apartment." "Maybe we should do some investigating," Naruto reasoned. "But you stay as you are," Max completed. "We old folks don't forget as much as you think," Max said before winking at Ben and leaving the room. "Ever since you've had that watch you're like a magnet for weirdness," Gwen insulted. "Shut up, dweeb," Ben said before heading inside to sleep, leaving Naruto and Gwen alone. "You okay?" Naruto asked as he walked to Gwen and put his hand on her shoulder. Gwen, being as smart as she is, knew what he was talking about a little bit. She relied and moved closer to him. "I still feel uncomfortable around others that aren't you since the incident," she said, looking down at her feet. Naruto hugged her close to his chest to calm her down. "Take it easy, all right. If you need help just call and I'll be there," Naruto declared, making Gwen to blush against his chest. She pulled back and gave him a peck on the cheek. "Thanks," she said, smiling at him, and Naruto smiled back at his friend before they both retired to the night, unaware of each other's intentions. Later, it was early in the night where the creak of a door was heard and footsteps followed moments after. Naruto was inspecting the neighbor's house for anything that was out of place, and saw it to be empty. Nothing out of the ordinary," Naruto said as he was in the living room, "except shouldn't someone like him be at home sleeping?" He mused. He then moved around, inspecting everything in here. "Something feels different," he said, finally noticing, and he looked down on the wooden floor, seeing that an area was cleaner than the rest, and the area seemed to be underneath a table. "I'm guessing that the carpet was supposed to be here," Naruto thought aloud and rubbed his chin. "I wonder why he was taking it down the cellar door." He then activated his Omnitrix and turned into Big Chill. Using his intangibility, he flew out of the house and went to the cellar doors and entered them, wanting to find out what was in there. He knew that it shouldn't bother him, but hey, he liked a good mystery every now and then. With Gwen. When Gwen was out of bed, she had to make sure that no one heard her footsteps as she quietly left the house to enter the RV. She reached under the bunk beds and retrieved a box that held the mask she was looking for. She opened the box and saw the mask and took it. "I know that it's against every moral code in my body to steal, but I have to find out," Gwen said, and she put it on over her head, expecting something to happen. She looked and still saw her normal clothes were on her. "Well, this was a waste of time," she said, but as she was about to take it off, seals appeared all over her, and before she knew it, she was wearing a full black bodysuit that had violet outlines on her chest. Lines appeared and a purple scarf that was made out to be a cape appeared on her neck. "What is this?" she stuttered out, and she looked at her hand as they had some sort of energy surrounding them. "Blue in color," she smirked. "Looks like Ben and Naruto aren't the only one with powers. But now I have to find out what I can do and maybe where this generic trait originated from." As she said that, information was downloaded into her head. Name: Gwendolyn Tennyson. Age 11. Occupation: student. Species: 1/4 Anodite, 3/4 human. Antidote: Anodite are beings of life energy, most commonly known as mana. The entire body of an Anodite is a humanoid-shaped construct of pure, compressed mana. A deep dark purple color and long flowing tendrils of hair are a bright pinkish purple glowing color. The color of their mana is bright/light blue and many different shades of pink, magenta and fuchsia and / with occasional shades of violet purple mixed together. They are free-spirited race and don't take life seriously as most humans do. They are one of the most dangerous beings in the galaxy if angered. Tread carefully if you are unlucky enough to meet one. "So awesome," Gwen said in awe of her newfound abilities. She was eager to test them but decided against it. So she quickly took off the mask and returned it to its rightful place, and went to bed knowing that she was strong enough to beat her stupid cousin and his stupid watch. Though she couldn't help but wonder who she got the 1/4 part of the generic trait from. The next morning, Prune juice, and oh what a surprise, more prune juice, Ben said as he was inspecting what was in the fridge. He closed it and looked at his cousin who just took a glass of water. Why does it seem like old people were always old? Ben asked his cousin. Good morning, Aunt Vera, Gwen said as she greeted her auntie that just walked in the house with a strange look on her face. How'd you sleep? Just fine, her auntie replied as she reached to squeeze a frightening Ben who just later accepted it, while Gwen walked to her aunt with a tray. I made you some coffee, Aunt Vera, she said, but then slipped a bit and the tray dropped to the ground, breaking the glass and spilling the water and coffee on the ground, something that Vera reacted harshly to. She did a full split as the coffee was moving towards her. Clean it up right now, she ordered her nephews rather harshly, something that startled Gwen as she apologized and cleaned the spill. Vera jumped down and looked to the open room. Where's your grandfather? She asked her niece and nephew. Early morning run, a voice replied, and she turned to see Naruto leaning on the door with his arms crossed over his chest and eyes closed. Okay, now behave yourselves, she said, and she walked out of the room. That's not Vera, Naruto said after moments of silence, startling Ben and Gwen. What do you mean? Ben asked. Did you not notice the way she spoke? Naruto asked. Now that you mention it, it did lack that certain cheerfulness to it, Gwen pointed out. Ben agreed with her in that issue. She's one of whatever's possessing these old people, Ben said, and Gwen was confused. Ben thinks that someone or something has been possessing these old people since we got here, Naruto elaborated. Well, are we going to find out what it is? Gwen asked Naruto. Sure, why not? Naruto replied. They all left the house wanting to find out what was wrong with this estate. Later, boom. Let me tell you something, you disgusting aliens, that smells as bad as my little brother's socks, a voice said as a car that was heading towards the three was destroyed by a punch. Either you tell Wrath where you are holding the retirees or Wrath will destroy you, Wrath said. Ben and Gwen that were standing behind the alien were suddenly glad that Naruto was with them because he had better control over his Omnitrix than Ben did, though Gwen did chuckle a bit. I'll never get tired of seeing this alien, she said. My socks don't smell that bad, Ben muttered. Roar! The aliens snarled as they took the form of their grandpa, slowly creeping towards them, that is until he was punched. Wrath then jumped to where he saw two cars and grabbed them, lifted and slammed both on the incoming threat. That didn't do anything to quell them, however, as the aliens just regenerated and started to advance towards him again. Your brother's in trouble, Gwen called out to her cousin. On it, he said, and in a flash of green light, Wild Mutt was in Ben's place. Wrath must have heard the Omnitrix being used, so he turned and saw Wild Mutt was about to help him. Let me tell you something, Wild Mutt, Naruto said, you take Gwendolyn Tennyson down that cellar. Roar! Wild Mutt protested, but Wrath wasn't having any of it. Now, Wild Mutt was subdued and Gwen led him to the cellar door. He used his head to push the garbage away and she opened the doors. He picked her up and dropped to the bottom of the hole that they were in. They saw a path and he followed it with Gwen on his back until they reached a two-way intersection. They took the one on the left, and Wild Mutt was moving as fast as he can to what his scent picked up. Wild Mutt transformed back into Ben after they crashed through a wall. Hey doofus, what do I look like, a crash test dummy? Gwen asked as she was wiping herself clean. I don't know what it is, but Wild Mutt picked up something in here, Ben said, looking down the tunnel they were in, and both he and Gwen walked there. As they reached the end of the tunnel, they saw an alien spaceship with green pods surrounding them. It's like everyone in Retirement Village has been podded up, Gwen said as she saw the pods and walked towards it. Grandpa! Ben exclaimed as he saw his grandfather in the pod in front of him. Ben quickly freed his grandfather, who was waking up from the temporary stasis he was placed in. Ugh, I was going out for a walk and then, I don't know what happened, Max said as he tried to get his bearings with his grandkids. Ben was about to go free the other people of the village, but a voice stopped him in his tracks. I wouldn't do that if I were you. Ben looked and saw three retirees walking towards him, but he knew that they were aliens. Well, you're not me, he said, and he started to backpad towards the wall with his grandfather and cousin. Not yet, I'm not, another voice said, and all three aliens revealed their true form. The Tennysons were trapped like cornered rats, that is until Gwen touched the wall, and a door revealed itself. All three of them ran inside and saw more pods. They found it. We can't let them out, an alien said. Get the pods on board now, the leader ordered. Ben heard a beep and saw that his Omnitrix was activated. He selected the alien he wanted. You guys really burn me up, he said, and he slammed the faceplate, and one green light later, he was heat blast. Now I'm going to return the favor. Heat Blast fired a fireball at the alien expecting to see results that will be in their favor, but the results weren't expected. The 3 aliens morphed into one big alien, more powerful than before. You just made a big mistake. It said we live for the heat. Why do you think we came to the desert in the summer? Ben wasn't using his head when he went to punch the alien. That's why he was easily smacked around and tossed to the side. Hey ugly, cool off, a cold voice said, and before the monster knew it, he was frozen in solid ice, never to be heard from again. Ugh, what happened? Heat Blast asked as he was getting up from being trashed. I saved your butt, that's what, a voice said, and Heat Blast looked up to see Big Chill looking down on him with an impassive look on his face. Let's get rid of these pods and destroy the ship, Big Chill ordered, and Heat Blast agreed. They had a lot of work to do. Later. Don't be strangers, Vera said as she was hugging her brother goodbye. We won't, Max said as he hugged her and then left to the RV. Gwen walked after and said her goodbyes along with Naruto. When it came to Ben's turn, I'm sorry Ben if there wasn't enough excitement here for you, Vera apologized. Actually, it turned out better than I thought, Ben said honestly. I'm glad, Vera said, hugging her nephew. Have fun on the road, and keep up the good work dealing with all those aliens. I will, Ben said as he hugged his auntie and left to the RV, and with that, all 4 left and Vera standing in front of her house hoping to get more adventures in the days to come. Meanwhile, Haku, are you sure that you have their location? A voice asked his partner. Hi Zabuza-sama. But they aren't stable, Haku said to her master, whose face was revealed in the dark. Well, I don't like to owe a thing to anybody, so we better get moving in order to catch up with our target, Zabuza said. Hi Zabuza-sama, Haku responded, and they both left in their respective shushin to catch up with a certain RV that they have been tailing for quite some time. What do these 2 want with the Tennysons? 3 children, 2 with similar abilities, and 1 with a unique spark will save the world from a war that will be of epic proportions, one that ninja cannot equate to. This is the new prophecy, one that is likely to change the balance of the universe, the elder sage said. So here, we see a gloomy Jiraiya walking to the gates of Konoha with a heavy heart, knowing not how to relate this news to his student, Minato Namikaze, and the rest of his family. This change could mean many things, and so far, he could come up with different translations to the prophecy. His answer: a prophecy should never be interfered with in any way or form, because some could be self-fulfilling, you just don't know which. As he was walking on the streets of Konoha, an ANBU agent appeared in front of him. Jiraiya-sama, the Hokage has been waiting for you, the ANBU said. Tell Minato that I'll be there, Jiraiya said. The ANBU nodded and left via Shunshin, and Jiraiya continued moments later. In Minato's office, Minato was pondering what to do with the situation concerning Nami's last C-rank mission when all of a sudden, he picked up a sudden increase in the air pressure, confirming the use of a Shunshin. How was your trip, sensei? Minato asked his sensei as he appeared in the office. Minato, there's something I have to tell you, Jiraiya said, and then he laid down the new prophecy to his student, who had his head in his hands the moment he heard it. I think I know who the prophecy is referring to, Minato said. Who? Jiraiya asked. We have to know so that I can find a way to turn it to Konoha's favor. Minato just looked at his sensei. I don't think we can, he said, because one of the most likely candidates is Naruto, and the other one is probably his brother. What are you talking about? Jiraiya asked. Minato then explained Nami's mission to Jiraiya, who had a thoughtful look on his face the whole time. As Jiraiya was thinking how this could play into his hands, even though he knew that prophecies weren't meant to be played with, Minato was thinking about the last prophecy and why Jiraiya was so interested in it before. It was like the prophecy said that without him, the world would be lost, and it was at that moment that something sparked in Minato. All the interest in him before he himself was informed of the first prophecy, then his sudden interest in his child, Nami. It was then Minato realized something. You want to use the prophecy to stroke your ego more than it already is. Jiraiya was surprised at that utterance from Minato. Minato, you know me, I would never dash. Except when it comes to the ladies. When they hear that it was you who trained the prophecy child, they will be throwing themselves at you, Minato said, his eyes wide. That's why you took interest in me, and that's why you told me to ignore my son, because you have an ego bigger than your pedophile of a teammate. Minato, this is getting dash. Get out right now before I tell Kushina what I just found out and set her on you, Minato whispered, looking at his hands that were shaking, and Jiraiya couldn't leave any sooner. What am I going to do? Minato sighed as he looked at his window to the village below, thinking how ignorant these people were. With Jiraiya, damn it, He's starting to find out, Jiraiya mumbled to himself as he appeared a few blocks away from the hot springs. I think a good memory charm will sway his mind a bit. But that will have to wait. Now time to find me some ladies, hee, Jiraiya said as he started a perverted giggle and went to the hot spring for his latest scope, not noticing the shadow that vanished moments later. Things were starting to get serious in the elemental nations, with most of its citizens ignorant of the plans ahead. With the Tennysons, he and I are training. That's more important than what you have planned, Ben's voice started as he was arguing with his cousin. But you've had him all your life. I think it would be good for him not to hang out with such a doofus because you'd probably bother him, Gwen retorted. I've had him since I was 6 years old, and since I've had him first, he's mine, Ben argued in return. And this was the scene Max and Naruto walked into. It's been 2 weeks since their break at Aunt Vera's house, and since then, everything had been quiet and boring. The Tennysons decided to take a 3-day break in New York in a very expensive hotel that Naruto and Max had to pull stops to get. Gwen wanted to tell Naruto something, but Ben was too eager to start his training on the next alien. But luckily for Naruto and Max, they left as the argument started, but unluckily for them, they were back before it ended. Naruto and Max were snapped out of their thoughts when a slap was heard and Gwen ran from the scene sobbing. Naruto excused himself from his grandfather and went after Gwen while Max stayed with Ben, who was holding his cheek with a confused expression on his face. With Naruto spotted Gwen sitting down by a lake looking at her hands. She heard footsteps and she turned around to see that it was Naruto coming. She hid her face in her knees as he drew closer and sat beside her. What ya upset about? Naruto asked. Ben, that's what, Gwen said. Wanna talk about it? He asked, shifting close to her, his hand over her shoulder making her lean her head on his shoulder. She started to explain how Ben was being childish and unfair and started to say what she had planned for the day for both of them. Naruto listened with open ears as a solution started to form in his head. I have an idea, the blonde boy said, and by the silence, he took it as a cue to continue. Why don't I just spend the day with you? He asked her. Something that took her by surprise. I mean, it would be a perfect chance to get to properly know you. You could almost consider this a date. Really? Gwen mumbled in her shirt, a blush adorning her features as Naruto nodded affirmatively. Something that brightened her day. But then she had a question. But what about Ben? Well, I'm sure he can handle himself for one day without me, Naruto said, and he got up, helping Gwen up as well. Come on, I'm sure that there are places you want to go to here in New York. As soon as he said that, Gwen was hugging Naruto's entire left hand on her developing breasts, something that Naruto noticed but didn't comment about it. There are places I do want to go, and you're coming with me. Now that you've made this suggestion, you won't be left out of my sights, Gwen declared, and they both started walking to where she wanted to go around here. Meanwhile, a couple was walking past the Golden Gate Bridge, ignoring the shadow that was following them all the way. So how'd you enjoy our date? The male asked his girlfriend. It was nice. I did like iRobot really much, the girl said. Gotta love Will Smith. He's an awesome actor, the man said, but as he was about to continue, he bumbled into someone. Sorry about that. I didn't watch where I was going, the man said as he tried to help the man that was on the ground that had a cloak over him. Feed me, the cloaked man said. Excuse me? The girl blinked. Feed me, the cloaked man repeated cryptically. I'm sorry. I don't have any food to give you, the male said apologetically. Come on, Susie, let's get out of here, the man told his girlfriend. I'm with you all the way, Harry, Susan said, and as they both turned around to leave, they were petrified on the spot. I must feed, the man said as he moved closer to the couple. He touched the girl and inhaled. The frozen girl glowed before the glow was sucked into the arm of the cloaked man that was behind her. Moments later, she turned into dust and was blown away by the wind. The same process was done to her companion, and he turned to dust moments later, and the cloaked figure suddenly dropped to the ground on his knees, sobbing for what he just did. Who was this man and what was his goal? With Ben left the RV after a heated discussion with his grandfather. He didn't know what he said to Gwen that made her cry. Okay, maybe he did bring up the case of her being useless enough to be captured more than a month ago, but how was he supposed to know that that was a touchy matter around her? Sure, he noticed that Gwen had been acting weird around anyone that wasn't his brother, and she'd been clingy towards him lately, but that was it. He was just eager to test out his aliens with Naruto like he always does, even though he had been spending a lot of time with his brother as of late. An arcade? Sweet, Ben said as he spotted the arcade. He rushed inside, forgetting what he was thinking of and also missing both Naruto and Gwen passing by the arcade on their way to their date. In the arcade, game over? But it just started, Ben said, and he saw an attendant who he complained to, but he was ignored. This place is a rip-off, you know that? You're right, the games here stink, a voice said from behind him, and he turned to see a boy as young as him leaning on one of the game consoles. Yeah, but not as bad as his breathe, Ben mocked, and both he and the teen laughed at the joke. You're funny. Here, you owe me one, the boy said, and he placed his hand on one of the arcade games and siphoned the energy out of it, releasing the tokens trapped in them. Ben had never seen so many tokens before in one place before, so gratefully, he thanked his friend. Funny, he hadn't really had any of those since the summer started. Well, except for his brother and family, but they didn't count. Besides, he was sure Naruto was angry at him for what he did to Gwen. Thanks, Ben said. I'm Ben. And I'm Kevin. Kevin introduced himself with his long black hair that fell to his shoulders and onyx-colored eyes hiding a hint of mischievousness in them. His skin was pale as his attire consisted of a tattered tank top with a skull head printed on the front of the top, blue cargo shorts reaching his knees, black boots with white laces, and 2 black bracelets were on his wrists. Kevin gave off the aura of a delinquent boy. Wanna play some air hockey? Ben asked, but as Kevin was about to accept, he spotted a group of boys he had been sort of avoiding heading his way. Nah, gotta bail, Kevin said, and he waved goodbye to Ben before he left with the group of boys following him, but not before bumping into Ben, who looked offended. Long time no see, said the leader of the group as they cornered Kevin. Where do you think you're going? Home to recharge your batteries? Another boy jeered behind Kevin, causing laughter to erupt among the group. Ben was about to charge in and help Kevin, but he thought about the cons of that action. So he settled for hiding and using his Omnitrix, transforming into XLR8. Trick or treat, Ben said to the startled group before he used his speed to get rid of the boys surrounding Kevin. XLR8 waved to Kevin before he left the arcade. Later, Ben was seen standing outside as Kevin came rushing out of the doors of the arcade. Did you see what that speed guy did to those losers? Kevin asked Ben, who shrugged in response. He said his name was XLR8, and that he was just passing by. Ben explained casually. So, he's a goody two-shoes hero? Kevin asked, something that slightly offended Ben. You could say that, Ben said. Cool, Kevin said. Hey, want a tour in New York City? He asked Ben, who accepted the offer, and both left the arcade moments later, with Naruto and Gwen. Local authorities are still on the lookout for missing couples, Harry Evans and Susan Bones. They were last reported to be seen coming out of Times Square. A news reporter's voice rang out from the direction of the widescreen television built to stand on top of a 4-story building. Naruto thought, rubbing his chin and looking at the screen displaying the news report. What? A voice asked, and he saw Gwen walking with 2 cones of cotton candy, offering one to Naruto, who accepted it appreciatively. There's been a case of missing people lately in New York. Something about this screams supernatural, Naruto said as he was walking next to Gwen. So what do you want to do about it? Gwen asked, dreading the answer. Nothing as of yet, Naruto replied, much to the relief of Gwen. He then grabbed her free hand. So what ride do you want to go to next? How about the Ferris wheel ride? Gwen suggested, pointing to the giant pinwheel in the amusement park they were currently in. I'm really glad I chose to spend time with you, Naruto said, and Gwen blushed, something that she'd been doing a lot lately. You're not upset about Ben? Gwen asked as they started walking to the Ferris wheel. No, not really. I could tell you needed the companionship at the moment, and Ben needed to cool down, Naruto told her. So you wouldn't have come with me if Ben did what he did? A dejected Gwen said. I'm sure I would have gone with you on this sooner or later. I just didn't count on sooner, Naruto confessed leisurely as they waited on the line for the ride. They waited for their carriage to arrive before they entered the open door. So what do you suppose this is? Gwen asked with quotations on this. It could be a date, Naruto mused, and was amused as Gwen decided to duck her head. Why would you want to date me? Gwen asked. You sure do ask a lot of questions, don't you? Naruto mumbled as he placed a shoulder near Gwen, who accepted and leaned into it, and rested on him as the ride started to rise up, and to answer the question. Only an idiot wouldn't want to date someone as gorgeous as you. I'm not that pretty, Gwen mumbled into his shirt. Then I think we have different definitions of pretty, Naruto said, moving his free index finger with a grin on his face. What's yours? Gwen whispered, wanting to hear his definition while leaning further into him. It'd be someone who isn't afraid to express themselves or hide their beauty, someone who's smart and honest, as well as honorable, and someone like you. Naruto's admittance came with a cheeky wink and a huge grin at the red-haired girl. Gwen just looked at him, and before Naruto knew what was going on, he was tackled into a kiss from the red-headed 11-year-old, a sloppy one. It took a while before Naruto responded and guided her through it, and kissed her properly before coming to a pause, catching their breath. What was that? Naruto asked. A kiss, Gwen replied. Aren't you a bit young to be thinking of that? Naruto asked, squinting his eyes, causing Gwen to giggle cutely before smirking. I didn't hear you complaining, she said, and as she was about to move in for another, the cart they were in was violently shaking. Naruto had to hold Gwen tight to keep her safe while the roof of the cart opened. They were brought into the viewpoint of a black-haired, brown-eyed man who wore a full-body purple jumpsuit. He had a scarf wrapped around his neck and wore a pair of dark purple boots. Are you supposed to be some kind of villain? Naruto asked with a glare at the creepy man. The man ignored him and levitated a screaming Gwen towards him. Hey, let her go! Naruto shouted from inside the cart, but the cart was violently thrown to the side with Naruto in it. The man just disappeared with Gwen. At the same time, Naruto transformed into Big Chill. Big Chill didn't have time to go after them because the cart was heading for a lady and her baby, so he flew and caught it before he dropped it on the ground and took off to the area he'd last saw Gwen. Who was that guy, and what did he want with Gwen? Big Chill asked before he used his intangibility and flew to the RV, hoping that he could track Gwen down with the new phone he got her. With Gwen. Why does this keep happening to me? Gwen asked herself as she was trapped in a tube that was connected to what looked like a container, but what does it contain? She looked at the man that had kidnapped her and was wondering what he was doing with that supercomputer in front of him. He looked to be pressing some buttons and mumbling to himself. He finally turned around, walking to the tube, and Gwen noticed that he was a bit older than before. Once upon a time there was a researcher wanting to know everything that there is about magic. He searched high and low for everything he wanted to know, and as luck would have it, he managed to find a tomb of a very powerful sorcerer. He was curious, so he decided to take a look at the tomb and was reading out the contents of it, not knowing he was activating a curse. And now, because of that mistake, he had to kill to survive. What does this have to do with NET-? Gwen tried to say, but was interrupted by the man who ignored her. His first victim was his wife and son. He immediately regretted it, and tried to quell the hunger. But the longer he held back, the harder it became to control the impulses, and the consequence, he ages quicker. It was then he decided that he would have to absorb the life force of anybody he comes across until he's full. Not only that, but also to possibly find someone with a really strong life energy that could help heal and cancel out the curse, and as luck would have it, recently, he sensed the activation of a certain spark that's very rare to find, and thus his quest to find this source and drain the energy so that he can live a happy and peaceful life. He may mourn the loss of his child and wife, but I'm telling you this because I want you to know why I'm doing this, and that I don't like doing this just for the fun of it. But why would you be interested in me? Gwen tried to ask, but was disgusted by the sudden aging of the man in front of her. Enough questions, time to begin the procedure, the man said, and with that, he left to the supercomputer and turned on the switch, starting to drain the life force from a struggling Gwen. The man just silenced the tube, hoping not to hear her screams because that would just fuel his guilt. With Naruto. Naruto was on his computer with COM cords connected to his phone. He called Gwen and it rang. Hello? Gwen, is that you? Naruto asked by the receiver. Naruto? Naruto, you have to get here quick. This man is trying to kill me. Gwen's panicked voice said on the other line. Try to stay calm, Gwen. Right now, I'm tracking you using a more advanced version of the stingray the police officers use right now, Naruto said. How on earth did you get your hands on a stingray? Gwen asked. I built it, genius aliens, remember? Besides, I knew that I would need it sooner or later, so I decided why not sooner, Naruto said. Haha, very funny, genius. Look, I need you to describe to me where you are, Naruto said. I'm in a tube that's connected to some sort of container. I'm also in a room, a basement I think, because of the stairs, and there's a supercomputer here in front of me and that man is working on it. Well, that won't do any good because every house has a basement here and it would take time to manually search the PLA. Hold on, there. I got your location, Naruto said as he got an area in his tracker. Gwen, hold on, I'm coming for you. After all, what kind of boyfriend would I be if I let my girl be taken as a hostage? Be boyfriend? Unless you want to settle for something else, Naruto said as he left the RV he was currently in. Don't you have to formally ask me first before you can be my boyfriend? Will you be my girlfriend? Naruto asked, getting ready to leave the RV. Of course, but we are young at the moment, so expect nothing short of cuddling and kissing. Of course, wouldn't have it any other way, Naruto said as he left the RV. I'm on my way, Gwen. Can you hold out and wait for me? Naruto asked. I'll try, but at the rate this thing is going, you better be here quick. I will, I promise, Naruto said, and with a flash of green light, he turned into Big Chill and flew away from the RV, just missing Max as he went in to pick up something from it before returning to the hotel they currently are staying at. Meanwhile, checkmate, a voice said. Damn, 200 years and I still can't beat you, another voice whined as he lost. The owner then snapped his fingers and the chess boards rearranged themselves. Want another round? No, my friend, I think I'm done with chess for the day, the first voice said as he got up from the table and walked towards a window. I think it's time to see the progress of our little experiment. As he said that, a sudden rush of information was downloaded into his brain, and as he blinked, it stopped the process. Excellent, the man said as he now knew what had been going on. I must say, I am impressed with how far these humans have evolved. Talking to yourself again, Hades, his friend said as he walked to stand by the window as well. Well, Poseidon, I think it's time we started to get back into shape, don't you think? Hades said with a smile and an aura of flame surrounding his person. I wouldn't have put it any better myself, Poseidon said with a bluish aura surrounding his own person as they both looked at the hologram of Earth in front of them as they were sailing somewhere away from the SOL cosmos, with Ben in an underground subway. Ben and Kevin just arrived, a frequently used subway for both cargo and passenger trains. So far, they've had a bit of an adventure, for example, outrunning the FBI after they tried to rob a game factory for Sumo Slammer Games. Ben was hesitant in trusting Kevin with the secret to his Omnitrix, but he had to in order to help a friend, though Ben had wondered why Naruto never did seem to look for him. He will deal with that later though. While Ben was thinking, Kevin spotted a light on a support beam that was not high enough for him to reach. He looked at his friend. Give me a boost, time to recharge, Kevin said, and Ben helped him to the light. Oh, and did he forget to mention, Kevin was like an energy sponge according to him. He could drain power from anything and redirect it to anyone and anything he wanted. That was why he was on a streak on his own. Kevin was done draining the light for its energy, and went to the tracks of the subway. He used the power he had drained in order to help him switch the tracks because it was too hard to pull on its own. What are we doing? Ben asked. A cargo train loaded with cash comes down this track, Kevin explained. So when it crashes into the oncoming passenger train, boom, instant jackpot. Innocents will die, Ben tried to explain to his friend. No pain, no gain, Kevin said. You can't do this, Ben said as he got up on Kevin's face. Sure we can, I just switched the tracks, Kevin explained. I mean, I'm not gonna let you do this. We shook, that means we're partners. No, this is going way too far, Ben said. Then try and stop me, watch boy, Kevin said. Kevin charged his energy and Ben saw that a hand-to-hand fight will be a mistake, so he settled for fighting fire with fire. Amen, I was going for feedback, a dejected heat blast said as he was in the place of Ben after Ben transformed. Kevin knew that he wasn't going to win in a direct fight now, so he did the only thing that came to mind. He went to the power console of the switch and drained all the energy, indirectly draining the energy of the entire lighting system of the station. Heat blast was like a beacon of light in the dark, but to find Kevin when he blended in with the environment was difficult. That was until Kevin took him by surprise and jumped on his back, placing his hand on the Omnitrix symbol, and started to siphon energy from it like he did the console. Kevin was screaming in pain and was struggling on his friend's back until he was thrown off, and because he didn't get enough energy, 1/4 of his person was now that of a Pyronite, like from his chest to his head, also covering his right hand. Kevin looked at his new form and smirked before launching a fire blast at Heat Blast. I absorb energy, remember? Kevin said to the downed Heat Blast. You don't have to do this, Ben/Heat Blast said to his one-time friend, but as he was about to grab Kevin, he was evaded and Kevin launched a blast at his back, forcing him to the ground again. It's time I got what's coming to me, Kevin said as he walked to the downed Pyronite. That was Heat Blast. Nobody's calling me freak anymore. Ben was about to attack him until he heard the train horn for both the passenger and cargo train approaching. He launched a blast at the switch, switching the tracks to its original position before using the distraction to leave Kevin as he was wallowing in his anger. Forget the money, Kevin said as he saw the trains leave. Time to get some priceless revenge. And with that he left the subway station back to his former hangout to meet some old friends. Back with Gwen. Gwen was starting to feel weaker and weaker as her life force was being drained. She was lucky that the man from before wasn't here, but that didn't change the situation she was in right now. How she wished Naruto was here to save her from this mess, then they could continue the date they were having before this whole situation started. I still can't believe that he's my boyfriend, she said as she was laying down on the ground. I should try to call him to know where he is, she said, but as she was about to call him, the supercomputer was turned off and the draining ceased. What the? Didn't think I'd let you die now, did you? A voice said, and in front of her appeared the red and black moth that was Big Chill, and she knew whom it was in the disguise. Naruto! She yelled in excitement and relief seeing her savior here. Big Chill inhaled and exhaled a large blast of flames that froze the tube she was in. Brace yourself, Big Chill said before he smashed the frozen tube with his hands and created a path for Gwen to walk free, something she took advantage of by squeezing the life out of him. As he was about to leave with her, a voice froze both in their tracks. If you think I'm letting you leave here alive, then you have another thing coming, the voice said, and they turned and saw the man that captured Gwen standing in front of her with a new outfit. In its place was a dark red long-sleeved shirt with some designs on the front and most likely the back, along with a pair of dark red pants. His feet were bandaged from his ankle to his toe, and his arms were bandaged as well from his elbow to his fingers, but not covering them, making them somewhat fingerless. He wore a dark red belt on his hip that matched his clothes and a black trench coat with the collars raised up covering half of his face. The man looked at Big Chill and Gwen before he raised his right hand and froze them on the air as they tried to move. He walked to the container and saw it was 70% full. Strange, he murmured, for the container to be nearly full, yet the victim doesn't look fazed at all, could only mean I picked the right choice, he said to himself, but Gwen and Naruto could hear him no matter. With this, I have more than enough power to last me a century. He then levitated the container to himself before he started the draining process, unintentionally freeing Naruto and Gwen from their temporary petrification. What is he doing? Big Chill asked Gwen, who was trying to get her bearings from the violent fall that just occurred. He's siphoning my energy that was trapped in the container, Gwen said, but as Big Chill was about to attack the man, Gwen held him back. I think I know why he does what he was doing. As Gwen began to tell Big Chill the tale of the man in front of them, the man was almost done draining the energy. The man could feel himself getting stronger and stronger as he drained more energy. You could see it in the background as an aura of power started to surround him. He started to have a violet glow around him that was steadily increasing. Big Chill seemed to notice the rise in power because the lights began to misbehave. He looked back to Gwen. I can't let him get any more powerful, Gwen, Big Chill said, and as he was about to launch an attack on his would-be enemy, it was too late, because the entire house exploded with power, and Big Chill had to form a protective layer of ice around Gwen to shield her from the debris of the explosion. Crap, was Big Chill's only word as he saw the figure that emerged from the smoke. You may call me Bloodstone, the man now known as Bloodstone introduced as he floated from the hole he created. His trench coat was bellowing in the wind as he radiated an aura of absolute power that seemed to scare Big Chill a bit. Not a bad supervillain name if I do say so myself, Big Chill said as he looked at his first personal villain. But the jig is up. No, Bloodstone said, there is no jig at all, just me having absolute power over everything. He was obviously corrupted with power, as Big Chill summarized. I grow bored of this though. All this draining energy from people just to survive because of a curse, it was so annoying. What are you? Big Chill was silenced with a wave of the hand. Time to test out my new ability, Bloodstone said, and with that, he levitated above the city and froze every moving object with a flick of his hand. Excellent, he said. Then he lifted up a car with a family inside, before he threw it aside hard. Big Chill saw this and flew after the car. He landed on a building and turned into the electric yeti known as Bioshock. He then jumped and caught the car as it was heading his way before landing on the ground and safely dropping it, looking at the scared family. You drive safely now, you hear? Bioshock said in the native Canadian accent he was known for. He then jumped back to where the villain and charged up an attack unknown to his opponent. Do you know the electric dance? Bioshock asked. The what? Bloodstone asked with a question of his own. It goes like this, Bioshock said, and then he started to do a break dance that looked utterly ridiculous to everyone watching the scene, and that includes the audience that arrived in the scene wanting to know. What was wrong? Please stop, Gwen murmured as she hid her face in her hand and shook her head. It seemed that Bioshock was done with the dance as he ended it with a spin and pointed his finger at Bloodstone, who didn't expect the attack, so he took the full blunt of it. As he was done screaming from the sudden attack, BioShock asked. So how did you find that meal? Because I usually find mine electrifying. Somewhere in Konoha, a grown man and his clone felt something in their spines and had to stop their ridiculous training, screaming something about youthfulness. Another part of Konoha, a blonde-haired man has the need to kill something right now. And back in New York, there was a cricket chirping in the background that was filled with silence. Bloodstone stopped screaming and curved his hand together, charging an attack. I think it's time to end this farce, he said. If you think I'd let you attack innocents, then you seriously have lost it, BioShock said as he charged his own Electrof, his hand and mouth. BioShock launched his attack the same time as Bloodstone, and the two beams clashed at each other. What's this I'm losing? Bloodstone asked himself as his attack was pushed back easily. Must be because I need to train myself in this new abilities. They do seem to have potential, he thought, but was interrupted as his beam was completely pushed back before he himself was attacked. It's like he easily gave up, Gwen said from her dome of ice as she was watching the fight. Why would he do that? Why did he suddenly give up? BioShock thought. I think I need time to rejuvenate before we continue this, Bloodstone said before the wind around them picked up and he left the area just as the police were on their way. BioShock heard the sirens and tapped the dial on his Omnitrix, turning into rush. Gotta run, he said before he dashed out of the area, but not before picking up Gwen. Now they were on their way to their hotel. The next day, police are still searching for the man that calls himself Bloodstone. From witnesses' testimony, they found out that he was the reason for the strange disappearances that were happening in New York, Manhattan, and other cities in the United States. They also are wondering of the strange shapeshifter that, the TV was off in the hotel room as the Tennysons were packing their things to leave the hotel. It's been a day since the disaster in downtown New York and the fight between Naruto and Bloodstone. Naruto still remembered the fight clearly and was wondering a few things, like why he left running when he was sure to have the upper hand and why he was after Gwen in the first place. He was beginning to wonder if Gwen had a hidden ability in her, and if she did and didn't know, she definitely would know now, and that will definitely change things up a bit. Speaking of Gwen, he and Gwen decided that they would have to go on another date that will make up for this one and keep their relationship from Ben a secret, because if Ben found out then there would be trouble. And that's something that Naruto really wanted to avoid right now. And speaking of Ben, it looks like he's finally starting to mature more, because when he came back from whatever adventure he had the decency to apologize to Gwen for the way he acted, something that made the entire group smile. Right now, Max requested a refund for the 2 days he never spent here, and they were about to get ready to travel on the road. Max was at the counter while the other three were in the sitting area of the reception talking. So what alien do you want to train next? Naruto asked his brother as he was sitting on a couch sharing it with Gwen at the moment. I don't know. I think upgrade will be best, but I want to cut back on the training a bit, give you and Gwen time to know each other better, Ben said from his chair opposite them. Wow, Ben, I didn't know that you could be so mature, Gwen said. Well, I decided that why not let Naruto have you, that way I could relax my body from all the training I'm getting. I'm even thinking that Naruto should start to train you as well, Ben said. Good idea. But I'll need to know if she has any special abilities so that we could find a way to train that as I help train her body, increase her stamina, her reaction time, that sort of thing, Naruto said. I could use the trainin'. Well, time to go, kids. I have a schedule to keep if I want to make it to that tour on ancient magic, Max said. Right when I was beginning to feel comfy in New York, Ben complained. Sorry, Ben, but time's wasting. Let's get a move on, Max said, and all four headed out of the hotel with Ben and Max taking the lead and Naruto and Gwen following after, secretly holding hands on their way out. Next stop, the Arcamada Book of Spells. Meanwhile, in the subway, as Kevin was about to experiment with his newfound ability that he absorbed from Ben, he froze at the killer intent that was directed at him. Well, Haku, it looks like you have a new playmate, a male voice said to his silent apprentice who just looked on. Looks like you have an interesting ability, kid, but you have no control. How's about you become my second apprentice? Kevin knew that he would make a very big mistake if he refused. Besides, he looked like a trained assassin, something that he knew would be awesome to be. Looks like Kevin has his own adventure to look forward to. Gwen knew that she had to come clean to Naruto about her touching his stuff without his consent, so she told him about how she found out that she was magical and was able to control mana when they were in Aunt Vera's place. Naruto was a bit disappointed, but he later appreciated the fact that his girlfriend was honest with him, and to show his appreciation, he asked her help in the next project he was planning, though she knew nothing about mechanics, but she was glad to help him out. It was 3 days since the New York adventure, and the Tennysons had a couple of stops before their final destination. Through the internet definition, Naruto found out that mana was a wizard's chakra, so he theorized that if they are similar, maybe they could be released in a similar way. That was when Naruto found out about his sensing ability. He was able to tell how much energy Gwen had even when it was suppressed. From what he knew about unlocking chakra, he instructed Gwen, and before he knew it, she got the hang of their exercise. You could practically feel the mana flowing through her if you could sense energy, and with that, Naruto moved on to the next step in Day 2, leaf balancing. Something that was difficult for Gwen because of the amount of energy she had. Today, they arrived at the Witchcraft Museum and were about to start a tour when Naruto excused himself and used this opportunity to start drawing blueprints for what he wants to build while the others continued on the tour. Naruto was in the RV thinking out loud. So what do I want in my car? He asked himself. He tapped the table with his pen and snapped his fingers as an idea probed his mind. Turbo boosters. That's for sure, and I want the metal plating to be invulnerable to any type of damage, but that type of metal I'm pretty sure is hard to find. He mused as he was drawing the things he mentioned. I'm also going to need some sort of transformer that will help it transform into a jet whenever I want to go airborne, although I have aliens for that. It just makes the car cooler. Naruto looked at the museum from the RV and looked back to his blueprints and smiled before putting it away. Well, time to go to the tour and see what my idiot of a brother is up to, he said. Then he got up and casually walked to the museum to see how far they had gotten in the tour. In the museum, while Ben was busy messing around, Max and Gwen were amongst the other people enjoying the tour that the museum had to offer. It was something that caught Gwen's attention as she was browsing for in the area of magic. And behind this impenetrable glass is the Arcamida Book of Spells. The attendant said the next sentence was echoed by Gwen. It contains ancient witchcraft and rituals from the late 1600s. The annoyed attendant looked at Gwen with a scoff. Maybe you should work here, dear. Don't let mummy face get to you, Ben said as he spotted his cousin distressed. She's probably older than that spell book. He then made funny faces that amused his cousin, who was glad for his distraction. But all fun times had to come to an end as the earth started shaking and every person in the museum was currently being levitated to the ceiling in the room they were in. Max was the first to speak out his thoughts. Something tells me that this wasn't in the tour, he said, and it was then a red mist made its way through the window heading for the book. As the mist stopped, it revealed itself to be a man that was standing in front of the book that was behind the glass. The Arcamida Book of Spells, the man said, all of its power shall soon be mine, he declared. He then chanted something in Latin. At least that's what it sounded like to Gwen. Before the glass surrounding the book exploded, he levitated the book towards him, not noticing the work Ben was doing with his watch. At least that was what Ben thought. Now might be a good time to go, hurrah, as Ben was about to select the alien he wanted. They were released from the hold they were currently in, falling to the ground screaming in terror, while the mysterious man just watched as these pests were about to get squashed. Meanwhile, as Naruto reached the door to the museum, he tried to open it but it was locked from the inside. He tried to shoulder his way in but that didn't work. It wasn't until he noticed the seals that appeared not moments later. What kind of seal is this? He asked himself. If it is a seal to keep people out, then the artist didn't do a good job. Naruto transformed into Big Chill and turned intangible because Big Chill can go through any door. He then was about to go through the door but was froze in the air. Well, we meet again. Naruto turned around and saw that it was Bloodstone that was freezing his movements. Even though I would like to crush you for the trouble you put me through the other day, I am on a schedule and I have a client to protect, so why don't you be a good little teen and leave him? He asked the Necrophrygian, who just looked back at him. If you think that this is enough to stop me, then you have another thing coming, Big Chill said, and he used the slight freedom the villain gave him to launch a very cold fire blast at his opponent through his hand. The attack froze Bloodstone, who was momentarily annoyed. But then he broke free and Big Chill knew that he needed to be fast to be able to dodge another petrification, so he changed into Chitrax and started to run towards his opponent, who just created obstacles upon obstacles to try to stop him, but it wasn't enough to phase the alien. You've got to try harder than the WOH. Chitrax slipped on ice that suddenly appeared on the ground, something that embarrassed him. I have got to learn to stop taunting my enemies like that, he said, and he began round 2 of the inevitable fight between the two. In the museum, Ben had once again saved the lives of innocents as he turned into XLR8 and created a small raft to help the falling people slide down to safety. He then faced the man that introduced himself as Hex, a wizard that was after eternal youth and power. The fight was pretty much one-sided because he used his speed to outmaneuver Hex in mostly everything except for a blinding charm that stunned him a bit, but as he was about to attack the down XLR8, Max and Gwen threw 2 barrels on his back, catching his attention. The magician was pissed, and as he was about to attack them, XLR8 came striking back with a vengeance, and he ended it by trapping him in a speed vortex and randomly hitting him, knocking out one of his charms that was on his neck, and it rolled towards a now recovering Gwen, who picked it up and examined it before pocketing it, wanting to study it more. Something that annoyed her was the way XLR8 was milking his victory to his awed audience, and as she was about to wonder where Naruto was, the door smashed open and surprise was clear on her face when she spotted Naruto was the one sailing through the doors with Bloodstone levitating in moments later, and as Ben was about to attack the new arrival, he was petrified in a similar manner that Naruto was and was flung to the side. Bloodstone floated to the down body of Hex before levitating him and vanishing with him in a swirl of wind. "Naruto, are you okay?" Gwen asked her boyfriend as she rushed to help him up in his de-transformed state. "Ugh, what happened?" he asked his girlfriend, and Max helped him up as well. "Looks like Bloodstone did a number on you, son," Max said. "Do you need to rest?" No, I'm fine," he said, and looked for his brother. "Where's Ben?" "Over here," a voice said, and they looked to see a drowsy Ben shuffling towards them. "Who was that guy?" "My problem," Naruto said, and he helped his brother. "Come on, let's go to the RV." And with that, they left to the RV. Later, Bloodstone was watching over Hex like a hawk as he was recovering from the injuries he had. He noticed that something was off about his client, but he decided to keep it to himself, and it was then he saw his client snap his hands open. "The Arcamida Book of Spells," Hex demanded. "It still is in the museum." "Now about my payment," Bloodstone said. "You'll get paid when I say you do. Let's not forget that you need help in learning those new abilities you have. Help that only I can grant," Hex blackmailed. "You know what, you're on your own," Bloodstone said, "but know this, if you want an alliance next time, you better be present with results." And with that, he left in a swirl of wind, leaving Hex to stew in his anger. "No matter," Hex said, and he sat in a meditative pose on the air before recalling his staff. He then floated to the museum to search for the one thing that will grant him immense power. Later, the Tennysons were recovered shortly after the incident. They decided to go for a little stroll after a weird dinner that had a number of coincidental accidents that ended up as bad luck for Ben when a crawfish crawled up his nose, something that brought laughter to the entire restaurant. They decided that it will be best to walk for some time to help Ben cool off from the little embarrassment from before. As Naruto was about to get Gwen something, they heard a scream. "Help, these men stole my purse." They turned to see a group of men heading their way with the stolen purse on their hand. "That's enough, kid," Max said as he stood in front of them, halting their movements. "Yeah, who's gonna make us you pops?" the leader of the group said. "Actually, him and his close personal friend, Diamond Head," Ben said as he went behind the stand to transform into his alien form. But as he was about to do that, the leader was stalking closer to Gwen, who moved back, but Naruto and Max took a protective stance in front of her. As they were about to start the brawl, Gwen slipped and fell backwards, hitting a performer on a unicycle who was juggling pins. The performer lost balance on contact, and one of his pins flew and hit a member of the group of muggers. The unicycle hit the leader, who was stumbling backwards unknowingly to Max, that is, until he was caught in a lock hold by said old man. Gwen got up from her fall and stepped on a mustard container that squeezed its contents on the mustard vendor's face behind her, who was momentarily blind from the shot. He kicked his stand and it rolled to the other member of the group, hitting him hard, sending him to the wall close by. That in turn created vibrations that headed towards a balancing vase on the veranda above the thug that was about to sit up. Unfortunately, the vase fell down from the lack of balance and knocked out the recovering thug. Naruto noticed something that happened in all the excitement that just happened. The charm on Gwen's waist was glowing, something that happened in the restaurant just as those timely coincidences occurred. Some testing needed to be done. Meanwhile, "Get up, brat, and don't even think of using that ability of yours to heal," was the voice of one Zabuza Momoichi as he was training his new student, Kevin. He found out that due to a recent scuffle with Ben Tennyson, Kevin had somehow absorbed some each of his alien's ability. Kevin was able to transform into each one of the unlocked alien Ben had to offer, but a side effect was that he was only able to stay human for a short while, something that didn't sit well with Zabuza, so he had to mercilessly train Kevin in. So now, that little side effect was being taken care of. Kevin also found out that he was weak when it came to hand-to-hand combat. He relied on his abilities, and was wondering what would happen should he be in a situation where he had none of them. That's why he was currently training in taijutsu with Haku, the female behind the mask whom was Zabuza's medic, as a sparring partner. Speaking of Haku, he had found out that she was pleasant to stay around with because she had this calm aura and she had this charm when she was speaking to you. She had also began to lecture him on true power, something he wanted, but didn't agree to her theory. But as he tried to prove how wrong she was, he was later on the ground with saban needles on his body. From there he promised himself that he would not piss of Haku, especially after figuring out that she had the ability to freeze his balls. He knew that he had the strength and speed to take on both of them, and win, but he wanted to know how far he would go with this, and he wanted to surprise Tennyson the next time they met. Oh, he could surprise him with his own aliens, but since he was sure that Tennyson knew the weakness of each of them, then there would be no point in the fight, so he had to have the upper hand. Plus, as far as he knows, Tennyson doesn't know how to fight any martial arts style. Kevin stood up as he watched his sensei walk away from him in disappointment. He then saw Haku walking to him with a box of herbs in her hand. "Are you all right?" she asked the boy, who winced in pain as he sat up. "If you call being beaten up with a broadsword by an insane sensei all right, then yeah, I'm all right," Kevin said, and Haku had to giggle, which for some reason Kevin found cute. "Just take it easy with Zabuza-sama, he grows on you," Haku said as she started healing him. "Why do you call him that?" Kevin asked. "I'm sorry, I don't know you well enough to tell you that tale. Maybe I will some other time," Haku said, and Kevin accepted and let Haku heal his injuries. He just hoped that the training will ease up later on. In Konoha, Teams 7, 8, and 10 were standing in the office of the 4th Hokage, currently being summoned by their senseis. Some of them worried what was happening, others didn't really care. Minato cleared his throat. "All right. I think it's time to state as to why I have brought you all here," he started to the assembled team. "Recently, Jiraiya and his spy networks have spotted where a certain group of people is currently staying. Though they are frequently on the move, it will be hard to track them because of that." He brought out folders and handed them to the Jounin senseis, who looked on in shock at what was presented before them. "Hokage-sama, are you sure this is?" Kakashi tried to say but was interrupted. "Your mission is to track them and bring them to the village. They each are special, and 2 of them have a weapon in their hands that would no doubt bring the village to prosperity. You have until the Chunin exams to complete them, and remember this is a capture and detain mission, though it might prove to be difficult. That's why I sent for you all." Dismissed. The teams and sensei left not a moment later, wanting to discuss the plans on how to tackle this mission. A shadow shimmered and revealed itself to be a smirking Jiraiya. "Don't worry, Minato. With those 3 here, I'll make sure to find out the secrets of the devices, and when I do, the other villages will think twice before they want to attack us. It will be even better if we enlist them into the ranks," Jiraiya said. "Of course, I'm sure you know what you're doing, sensei," Minato said like a good student. That almost made Jiraiya want to smirk evilly. "It's a good thing Danzo agreed to help me catch the brat of guard before I was able to place the memory seal on his neck, else this won't happen. Gotta thank sensei for helping get rid of those pesky Uzumaki. Their knowledge on seals are definitely worth it." Jiraiya thought to himself, "Well, I'll catch you later, Minato. Gotta go research for my books. You know if Kushina catches you, you will be in big trouble, right?" Minato asked, and Jiraiya waved him off. "I can handle it," Jiraiya said, and he jumped out the window, leaving his pawn to do his business. Minato smiled as his sensei left, then he frowned sadly at what he thought was his sensei. "For you to resort to petty things like this, Jiraiya. It almost makes me think if I even knew you at all." Minato said to himself. Yes, he knew of the seal that was placed in his neck thanks to Kushina, who spotted it instantly, but they agreed to play Jiraiya's game a little more before they spring the unexpected trap. That would surprise him. He was beginning to think whether he should tell the Toads what has become of their sage, but he'll do that later. Time for ramen. With Naruto and Gwen. Naruto and Gwen found out through a couple of tests that Gwen had a good luck charm in her possession. They tried in a couple of games like mini-golf where she got 10 hole-in-one strikes and 10 games of hoops. It was then that Naruto decided something. He wanted to see how Gwen would fare given the chance So he decided that he would lend her his mask later when trouble arises. Plus Ben could use the break, and humbling as he has been getting a bit cocky as of late. Ben just arrived as he saw his cousin throw a perfect 3-pointer, but as he was about to make a comment, they heard an explosion and looked to see some construction workers falling to their doom. Ben quickly went into action as Wild Mutt to save the one that were falling to their doom, not even thinking of the ones that were affected by the accident on the ground. Fortunately, Gwen was there to save the day, even though Naruto would have done it. "Gwen?" Max asked as he saw his granddaughter in her outfit ready for action. She wore a black full-body suit showing a bit of her feminine figure in all the right places. It was accessorized with a purple scarf and a GI belt on her neck and waist. She had on 2 wrist bracelets, one of which was equipped with the good luck charm she found. And finally, purple outlines were seen on her suit that glowed a bit, even on the face mask she had on. "It's lucky girl for now, Grandpa," Gwen said. Then she looked for what could help the man stuck in the smashed truck and spotted a set of planks on a construction horse. She aimed her hand as a blue hue appeared covering her wrist to her fingers. She wanted something to happen and was concentrating as hard as she could. The response. The plank was vibrating before it shot out and aimed for the window of an abandoned demolition crane, which indirectly activated, dropping a demolition ball on the back of the truck that was trapped underneath a construction beam. It was tilted, lifting the beam of the truck, creating an escape route for the trapped worker inside. The beam that was launched of the truck hit a construction elevator button, activating said elevator, sending it zooming upwards at an unsuspecting wild mutt who was suddenly forcibly taken on a ride on it, but was launched to the air once it suddenly stopped. But then something as big as wild mutt couldn't stay on the air without support, and this is where gravity decided to be a bitch and send him back down to earth, smashing through the construction elevator into the back of a fully equipped cement truck. The pieces from the smashed elevator would have crushed Gwen had she not jumped into the cement truck. Her hand shifted as she landed, though, activating the truck, accidentally putting it on reverse, forcing it to hit a construction pipe that rolled until it was underneath the construction workers that were hanging for their lives. Seeing the pipe underneath them, they let go, sliding through it, landing on a safety mattress that was underneath it, breathing a sigh of relief at the same time. Before Gwen could leave, she was hounded by reporters left and right. "So how did you pull off that amazing stunt?" the reporter asked to the newly discovered hero. "With style, of course," Gwen said, and then she saw Wild Mutt leaving the area and she decided to act like her so-called cousin just to rub it in. "Who's your hero?" she said to the crowd, waving to the saddened Wild Mutt who just left. "You heard it here, folks, live," the reporter said as Wild Mutt was watching from a distance. "You know you kind of deserve that," a voice said, and Wild Mutt saw it was Naruto talking. He made some grunting sounds, hoping that Naruto understood. "Gwen told me how you were showboating in the museum after you beat that wizard," Naruto explained, and Wild Mutt had the decency to look embarrassed at that. "Don't do that again or I'll turn off your Omnitrix for a week." A subdued Wild Mutt just listened to Naruto and decided to follow him back to the RV in order to wait for Gwen and Max to arrive. Meanwhile, an explosive interview with our city's very own, the reporter said, and she shifted the mic to Gwen, who appeared on the screen. "Lucky girl." Hex was levitating himself on the sidewalk, ignoring passers-by as he heard the news. Something caught his attention, making him pause and look at the screen. "There you are," Hex said as he saw the charm he was looking for on the hip of this lucky girl. He decided that he wanted the charm back and he started to form a plan in his head, something that was sure to get their attention. "Konoha, all right, this mission requires us to leave the elemental nations to unknown lands, so any jurisdictions we have or are used to will be useless or not. It depends on the place we are exactly," Kakashi said as he was explaining part of the mission to the assembled ninja. "We know that, Kakashi, but why are we here?" was the voice of one Yugao Yuzuki as she had waved to herself. "Hate Gecko, and man that was there. Cough cough, forgive me for asking, cough, but who is he?" Hate said while in between coughs at the same time pointing at the newbie. "My name is unnecessary, but in this mission, you may refer to me as Taraka or simply Tora," Tora introduced. "He's a master tracker, and before you say anything, Kiba, he is more experienced than any Inuzuka. His nose is far superior and can spot a scent even under rainy conditions," Kakashi explained to his entourage. "So he'll help us track the targets?" spoke an interested Kurenai who didn't like the jab at one of her teammates. "Yup." "Now enough talk, we're burning daylight," he cheerfully said, and they all left the gate hoping to get this done with the Tennysons. The Tennysons were on the road with Ben and Gwen arguing yet again, and Naruto doing nothing to step in, much to the disappointment of both teens. The argument this time was about the stunt Gwen pulled, something that didn't sit well with Ben since he noticed that glowing object that Gwen had on her hip. According to him, it was supposed to be a souvenir from his first fight against Hex, but he didn't find it when he was looking, but Gwen argued that it was her that found it, and according to the law of the playground, finders keepers. They were about to argue further when they heard the radio noticing the news. Max and Naruto knew that these two will want in on the action, so Max drove the RV V to the haunted history mansion to save those panicked lives from whatever the threat was. Max pulled off at the museum and all Tennysons rushed in to see something weird. The whole room was moving around like it was paper. Gwen, donned in her lucky girl outfit, looked up and saw a balcony was about to fall off with people on it. It was connected to the stairs that just fell off, leaving no escape route for the lives, so Gwen did what a hero would have done in this situation. Stay calm, she said, and she looked left and right for a route to take. Seeing one, she followed it and went up to the panicked civilians. She was trying to balance herself on the balcony that was being levitated in the air. What's causing this mess? She asked seemingly no one. She then sighed as she balanced herself and looked to see a chandelier. She concentrated with a lot of effort and floated the balcony to the chandelier. She grabbed a hold of it and ordered everybody to hold on, something they did immediately, and she let the balcony fall down on an annoyed Four Arms, who took the brunt of the hit. What was he doing, you ask? Well, with everything moving as it was difficult for Four Arms to maintain balance while safely showing the grounded civilians out, with Max leaving Gwen to take care of the rest while Naruto was looking left and right for the source of what was causing this mayhem. With the civilians Gwen rescued now safely on the ground due to an immense amount of luck, the mansion was empty, leaving the Tennysons to wonder what caused this. That is, until Gwen was forcibly lifted up in the air after she was paralyzed to prevent movement. As Hex was about to go for the attack, Gwen used what she knew of her powers to summon a statue towards her kidnapper, who was surprised at the sudden attack, so he was hit, leaving a free Gwen, who was now running from him into a hallway. Hex of course was annoyed, but as he was about to move, he was blindsided by a rush of water and looked to see a red mollusk-like alien pointing his hands at him that was dripping wet. His eyes are green and his mouth does not move when he speaks. Hex also noticed that behind his legs and on the top of his arms are small spikes that are gray, and on his shoulders and legs there are black spots also. On his hands there are portholes, which he, Water Hazard, used to shoot the water that was launched at him. Hanging out with Ben forced some quirks to my head, such as his bland naming of his aliens. I couldn't think of anything to name this one, so just call him Water Hazard for now, Water Hazard said as he introduced himself. I do not give my aliens bland names, Four Arms said from his position as he was just waking from his brief sleep. I won't reply to that, Water Hazard / Naruto said before he aimed at Hex and shot gallons upon gallons of water at the downed wizard. But as the water was about to hit Hex, who would have defended it himself, it flowed around him as if controlled by an external force. I believe you, and I have some unfinished business to attend to, a voice said, and they all turned to see Bloodstone floating above them with his eyes glowing purple and his arms stretched looking at Water Hazard, who scoffed unseen to anyone. Why, yes, I believe we do, Water Hazard said, and he tapped the Omnitrix dial on his chest, and in a flash of green light, he was Chitrax, who looked around to find that Hex used this chance to escape. Go, I'll handle him, Chitrax said to Four Arms, who looked at Chitrax and nodded before rushing after the running wizard. Chitrax then looked at Bloodstone with a glare. Ready for round 3? He asked. As what the teenagers say nowadays, bring it, Bloodstone replied before both started their bout, forgetting about Max, who just left the mansion for his own safety, and looking for his granddaughter as well, with Gwen. So far, Gwen knew that she was in trouble once Hex was after the charm, but did she deter from it? No, she decided to herself that she would learn more about the charms. As she herself was beginning to learn magic, I plan on having her a bit like Gwendolyn Tennyson of the 10,000 timeline, hence the interest in the charms of Bezel. So she knew that she had to somehow find a way to get the other 5 charms, keep it secure from her doofus of a cousin, maybe ask her boyfriend for help. Speaking of boyfriend, they haven't been on another date in some time, maybe because of all this moving around. She mused as she leaned on the wall beside her, unknowingly pushing a loose brick that loosed the others, falling on an unsuspecting Hex that was on the other side as he was preparing to cast the spell on the wall. Thank you, luck, Gwen said as she saw Hex's body underneath the pile of bricks, and she ran from the scene. Hex was up not soon after and began the chase, wanting to stop at nothing to get his charm back, but said charm was really misbehaving. All he wanted was a little world domination and immortality. Was it too much to ask? Boom! Gwen tripped and fell as a beam of energy traveled directly over her, hitting the dead-end wall in front of her, creating a route. She got up and ran to the route, exiting into a forest that led into a graveyard that spooked her a bit. She kept on running and running, looking left and right, spotting trees beside her. She went to hide behind one, taking a breather from the brief exercise. What she didn't notice was the lone branch that was creeping towards her feet. It grabbed the screaming girl and lifted her up to its master, who looked at the scared Gwen. The branches were binding Gwen around her body, similar to the way a snake coils around its prey. She had to wince from the pain until she noticed another branch heading for the charm on her hip. "No!" She screamed, but was silenced as she had to watch Hex catch the charm that was handed to him. She had one thought before she blacked out completely: hope Naruto or Ben come here on time. She had to pass out moments later as darkness overtook her. With Naruto was busy dodging a blast from Bloodstone when he felt a chill go up his spine. Then and there he knew that Gwen was in trouble. Don't ask him how, he just knew these things. Call it a gift, but right now, he had to get rid of this annoyance in front of him. "Shit," he said as he felt trapped and saw a beam of energy heading straight to him. "I know you can do better than that. Why don't you give me everything you have to offer?" Bloodstone taunted as he attacked Naruto with an energy beam and tossed the now smoking body to the side. "Most of my aliens are useless against him except Bioshock that can light him up," Naruto said to himself as he got up from the attack, wincing in pain, as if reading his thoughts. The Omnitrix beeped and revealed an image of an alien he never used before. He shrugged and thought good enough. He then selected the image, and in a flash of light, in his place was a humanoid alien with red skin and sharp pointy ears. He wore a dark green sleeveless jacket with the Omnitrix symbol on his chest and dark blue pants with a pair of white sneakers on his legs. He had green wristbands on each arm and a pair of yellow slit eyes. Naruto examined himself and flexed his hand. He was surprised when it was surrounded with a green glow. He smiled and looked to his enemy, who was looking in confusion at this new development. Bloodstone was about to ask a question when he was suddenly sent back with a punch by Naruto, who suddenly was in front of him. "Not bad, fast and strong," Naruto said in a deep voice. "Let's see what else he can do." Naruto then flew till he was directly over Bloodstone, and his arms started to glow. "Flight, check," he said, and he aimed the gathered energy at Bloodstone, who tried to absorb it but couldn't as the energy surrounded his person, trapping him in a spherical prison that was made by an artificial construct. "If I didn't know any better, I'd say that I was a Green Lantern like those comics," Naruto mused to himself. He then raised up the prison and slammed it to the ground hard before repeating the process over and over again, upsetting the prisoner inside before he aimed to the moon. "Let's see how far I can throw you," he said. He constructed a bazooka with the prisoner as a missile and created a scope. He steadied his aim and fired, sending the trapped Bloodstone in the air as he was screaming in the night light, trying to free himself from said prison. "At least I know I won't see you again for some time," Naruto said before he flew to where he thought Gwen was, because he could feel her energy, and it was fluctuating and weak. He had to hurry before the worst happened, and the only thing people could see was a green streak of light fading away. With Ben, 4 arms freed Gwen from her trap. Gwen appreciated the help and thanked her cousin for the help, who accepted the thanks. They heard the sound of thunder while looking for their enemy, and saw the clouds gathering in one direction where a figure stood still, suspended in the air. Hex was in the process of chanting a spell capable of destroying the entire city. His robes bellowed and the charms on his neck glowed as the wind pressure increased. He was about to go further, that is, until he heard a voice. "I don't think so," it said, and he turned around to see a green glow heading his way. He didn't know what it was, but he was suddenly attacked from above and sent back down to the ground forcibly, and if one were to look up, they would see a sledgehammer construct in the air where Hex was once. Pissed, Hex summoned his staff and levitated. "You dare challenge me?" he growled. He then raised his arms to the sky. Gargilia Vortium. A red mist was released from his staff and flowed throughout the graveyard, targeting statues that came to life not soon after. They kept 4 arms and Naruto busy enough for Hex to get back to his work, but he forgot about Gwen, who was magical as well. She used the last of her magic to force Hex to trip before panting in exhaustion, falling to her grandfather, who caught her. "Are you okay?" Max asked with a concerned tone to his voice. "Yeah, I just need to rest," Gwen said as she panted heavily. 4 arms and Naruto were just about done with their statues when Hex was about to get up from his fall. Something Naruto noticed, so he made a construct of a more powerful sledgehammer, knowing that Hex couldn't take it. So he smashed the wizard down to the ground, hard, knocking him out completely before floating down to his family. "Who's this guy?" 4 arms said. "I don't know, I haven't thought of a name yet," Naruto said. "Any ideas what his abilities are?" Max asked. So far, there's super speed, super strength, heightened senses, flight, and construct building only when I glow green," Naruto said. "He's just like a Green Lantern," 4 arms mused, "since that is a comic, and you are the first real lantern on Earth. I guess you could go by Guardian. Why Guardian? Naruto asked. Because I can't just call you Guardian of Oa or Green Lantern all the time. Besides, that seems to be the best choice since most of his abilities can be used for defense. For Arms shrugged. Like those constructs I saw earlier, they could be used to create a protective dome to shield lives from a powerful blast, Gwen said as she was walking to them. Where'd you go? For Arms suspiciously asked. I destroyed the charms of Bezel, Gwen explained and pointed up to where there was a blue mist rising up to the sky creating neon lights moments later. Gwen walked to Naruto and discreetly held his hand, passing 2 of the remaining charms to him, and as Naruto looked at Gwen, she raised a finger to her lips, shushing him and giving him a peck on his lips while Ben and Max were distracted with the light show. Naruto accepted that there will be an explanation later, so he kept quiet and decided that he will name his alien guardian because that seemed to be the best option so far. Later. So where to next? Ben asked as tired from his recent adventure. I know a place we can go to help train your aliens. At least there, we won't have any interruptions, Max said from behind the wheels as they were driving on the road with Ben in the front seat, while Naruto and Gwen were in the back. Why the sudden interest in my training? Ben asked. I want to see how far you've gotten, that's all. Maybe know a little more about your aliens, Max explained. Sweet, can't wait to beat Naruto in a spar, Ben said as he clapped his hands and relaxed on the front seat. In your dreams, Ben, Naruto called out from behind the curtains. He then went back to talking his quiet discussion with Gwen. Why do you have these with you again after you said you destroyed the charms? I was thinking, I need all the advantage I can get, and even though that the other 3 charms are destroyed, there is a way it could be resurrected. Maybe a new set could be created? Gwen asked herself. That's all well and good, but what do you intend to do with these? Naruto asked as he held up the 2 charms. I intend to use the charm of telekinesis to fly and manipulate the mind of my opponent, Gwen explained and saw Naruto's look. Not you, of course. I love you way too much to do that, she said. Then she quickly sealed her mouth as if she said something forbidden. Naruto smirked. It's okay. I knew that already, he said, and Gwen didn't know if he was referring to the love part or the lack of manipulation on him, but I just need to make sure that you're safe, because you'll never know what kind of dangers you could place yourself in because of these charms. Gwen huffed and crossed her arms over her chest as she looked away from her cheeky boyfriend. I wonder why I even bored her sometimes, she said to herself, and Naruto had to chuckle after that as they were enjoying the ride that the RV had to offer. Meanwhile, is everybody here? Kakashi asked as he did a head count to confirm everybody's presence in the mission. Good. Now we are going to have a really long boat ride, so I hope you have something to entertain yourselves with. Get on with it, Sasuke said from his position beside Nami and Sakura. Now this boat is heading to our current destination. I hope that none of you will give the other passengers trouble, Kakashi said. I don't know why we can't just water walk there, Kiba said. Because Kiba, the distance will be a problem. Unless you have near limitless chakra, you won't be able to walk across continents. That's why an alternative method of travel is required, Shino explained. Fine, Kiba huffed. Okay, enough of that, let's get a move on. Kakashi clapped, and he brought out his orange novel as something that will entertain him throughout the journey, much to the annoyance of the females on the boat. It was going to be a really long ride. Any lock on their scent yet, Tora? Kakashi asked his comrade as he was on land. No, they probably don't even live here. Any idea on where to start? Tora commented after he sniffed the area. Will this help? Yugao asked as she handed Tora a paper on the attack that happened in New York weeks ago. I don't know, here, Kakashi. Will this help? Tora asked Kakashi as he handed the silver-haired jounin the paper. Kakashi smiled. Yes, it will, he said, and the females couldn't help but blush at his smile. It was a day since they arrived in the United States. They presented their documents with the proper authorities, and were free to move, but it was decided that they would have to change from what they wore in order to blend in, but people like Sasuke or Sakura didn't have any problems with that. The rest decided to put on something casual, and Kakashi was advised to take off his mask for security measures, something that was understood, and seeing as there would likely be no one here to recognize him from the nations apart from his team, he agreed, although he did argue a bit. Nami was wearing a simple pair of black skin-tight trousers that shows a bit of her hips, and she wore a blue long-sleeve round-neck shirt. Her red hair was tied as a ponytail. Ino wore a purple blouse with a pair of short skimpy jeans and a pair of sandals that went with it. Her hair was in a similar style as Nami. Hinata just wore something simple, a short skirt that stopped at her knees and a white long-sleeved t-shirt that was over a black vest. Her hair was just as it was as she left the nations. The guys except for Sasuke changed their wardrobe. Shino wore a simple pair of black trousers and a cream-colored shirt that was under a knee-length ash trench coat. His afro was relaxed as he let his hair fall down and tied it into a ponytail. He also changed his round sunglasses to a rectangle one. All in all, they couldn't recognize him a bit before he reintroduced himself again. Kiba just wore a simple dark blue hooded jacket and a pair of ankle-length brown pants. Akamaru stood beside him in a collar panting next to his owner. Choji as of yet wasn't able to find something to fit him because of his brash nature when people called him anything other than big boned, while Shikamaru just wore a white long-sleeved buttoned shirt and black trousers. Kakashi was reading the newspaper when he spotted the alien on it. He then looked for the time and place, and saw that it was dated a few weeks ago in a city called New York, their next destination. This paper was dated a few weeks back, but I have faith in Tora here. He can be able to track any scent no matter how old the trail is, Kakashi said as he tapped Tora on his back. Well then why are we standing around here? Kurenai asked. Let's start moving. Good idea. Asuma spoke. For the first time since this mission started, the longer we wait, the more on a lead they have on us. And with that, the hunt begun. With the Tennysons. It was 2 days ago that they faced Hex and his ally, 2 days that Naruto had a new alien, and 2 days that Gwen kept 2 of the 5 charms of Bezel. They were in the middle of the desert with Max setting up the targets while Naruto and Gwen decided to go off on their own. With Naruto and Gwen, the two were in an abandoned town that they recently found, Slatterville, a town that was abandoned due to the discovery of silver in their mines, but they ran out of said resource. And because the area was hot and sunny, they decided to take refuge underneath the shades that was provided for them by the abandoned houses. Gwen was cuddling with Naruto, that is until he pulled her onto his lap, something that she settled on quickly. Comfy? Naruto asked as he held Gwen by her waist and pulled her closer. I am now, she said as she leaned her head on his chest, taking in the sweet scent she had come to like. What are you doing after the summer? Gwen suddenly asked, afraid that she won't see him again for some time. I don't know really. I mean, I just finished high school, so I guess I'll be looking for a college to apply around Bellwood. Why? Naruto asked. We just got together. Gwen said. I would be really upset if we were separated by outside sources. Gwen, even if we do, I plan on going to college for only 2 years. Naruto said. I have faith that I would be done by then at least. What with my photographic memory and all. I can wait for you so we can enter university together. Gwen kissed Naruto fully on the lips after he said that. I appreciate your concern, but I don't want you to stunt your academic growth because of me, she said after she withdrew from the kiss. Babe, it's not like I'll be idle while I wait for you, Naruto explained. I have a car that I'm planning to build, and believe me, that should occupy my time then if I'm not with you, he said. Does Ben know about this? Gwen asked. No, why? Naruto replied with a question of his own. Because he's your brother, and I'm your boyfriend. But on Ben's case, he won't be mature enough to handle the news, Naruto explained. That makes sense, Gwen mused, but have you thought of any plans concerning the internal structure of the car? Why yes I have, Naruto said. You can help come up with ideas. I already planned on placing a turbo booster and a device that can help me transform the car into any other transport vehicle I want. Why not build something that will help it submerge? You know, like a submarine, Gwen added, impressed with Naruto's idea. That's a good idea. So right now I have 3 things to build, a transformer, and a device able to help my car stand the pressure of the waters below when submerged, Naruto said, scratching his chin. That sounds like it would work, Gwen said, then put on her best begging face that Naruto found cute. Are you going to build me something? Nice try, babe, but that won't work, Naruto said, tapping her nose with his finger, and Gwen pouted. But after I build the car, then I'll see what I can do, because the car is a lot of work on its own. Fine, Gwen said. Then she got up, pulling Naruto with her. We better head back to the desert to check on Ben and Grandpa. I'm sure by now, he's driving Grandpa Max mad. Naruto agreed with Gwen and turned into Guardian. He picked up Gwen bridal style and glowed green. Hang on, he said in his calm deep voice, and took off in flight, but not before turning invisible as he was halfway to his destination so as to avoid detection from Max and Ben. The invisibility is just that, invisibility. But the major flaw is that he can only hold it for 60 seconds, so he'd have to fly as fast as he can before time ran out. He and Gwen wouldn't want a hassle from Ben if he were to find out of their relationship earlier with Ben and Max. Are you ready, son? Max asked Ben, who took a ready position as the targets were set in front of him. Ready as I'll ever be, Ben said, and he turned into Diamond Head waiting for his grandpa's orders. Remember to think, Ben, Max said. Might isn't always right. I know, Diamond Head said, but it is fun. He then shifted his hands into a projectile launcher ready to shoot the targets. Max saw this and launched the first wave of attack. Diamond Head fired projectiles at the targets, hitting every single one of them dead on. Again targets were launched and bullseye were brought up. Diamond Head launched another set of projectiles at said targets, and bullseye hitting them dead on without missing a bit. Training with Naruto does that to you. Diamond Head blew his finger, as if he were blowing smoke from the mouth of a pistol, and walked to his grandpa, also just noticing the arrival of Gwen and Naruto, both of whom were walking next to each other, without giving the other space to breathe, something Ben found weird. Is it me, or do you guys spend way more time with each other now than before? Diamond Head pointed out. It's just you, Gwen said as she and Naruto stood in front of Diamond Head, but Max wasn't done with the target practice. Something that Diamond Head paid the price for, with a tire swing smashing his side, sending him to the ground, and carelessly launching projectiles at random places. Naruto and Gwen had to take cover as a bunch of projectiles nearly hit them. Whoops, Diamond Head said as he recovered from the slight mishap and looked around, noticing the disappointed look his grandfather was sending him, and the angry one Gwen was sending him. Ugh, he didn't even want to look at Naruto's face right now. Meanwhile, this is where the Omnitrix was last activated, a voice said as the owner was looking at the radar in his hand, pressing a button. Over the mountain top, his ally that appeared to be a crab-like droid stood beside his other partner, who looked like a mercenary in arms. His partner spoke in a weird language, something that humans couldn't translate, but it seems like the crab-like alien could translate it very well. You can say that again. The crab-like alien said, a rock pile like this is better of space dust. The obviously smarter mercenary was walking through the jungle gym of targets that was previously used by the Tennysons just minutes before. He stopped and picked up a soda can that was pierced with a diamond projectile, but as he made to pick it, something picked it up before him. It was the third mercenary, 6-6. He was about to inspect it when it was snatched away from his hand. Get in my way again and I'll teach you how to say dismantled, the first merc said to 6-6, who just insulted his temporary ally before the threat. 6-6 backed up and took flight with his jet pack after some parting words in his mother tongue, while the crab-like merc that was just standing around watching the confrontation burrowed underground. The first merc, I think I am going to be calling him Tetrax from now, because writing the first merc, or armored merc, all the time is just annoying, and you all know who he is, was walking away from the target gym, but nearly tripped over a wire. Targets appeared behind him and he pulled his plasma gun to completely destroy the entire area. Finding this pointless, he himself just flew on his hoverboard away from the resulting explosion. In the outskirts of space, Hades was sitting on his throne next to Poseidon's as he pondered his next decision. What to do with the planet Earth? He could conquer it like he'd done hundreds across the multiverse, or he could destroy it. He could remember the last planet he destroyed, Pyrrhus. Pyrrhus was a star, not just a planet. It was twice the size of Earth's sun and the temperature was hotter. It wasn't the planet that caught his ire, no, it was its people, the Pyrosapiens. People made of the element fire, much like a pyronite but different. Just a baby can consume a planet's core to quell its hunger, destroying the planet. That's why their race is in amongst the most dangerous next to Anidites and Celestialsapiens, Alien X. Oh, how he would have loved to make these insects his obedient servants, but alas, their cockiness was really annoying, and to make matters worse, their ruler believed that they should rule the universe and get rid of their one-time and most hateful enemies, the Necrophrygians. Big chill, a group of aliens that control ice. Something he'll have to get rid of later, as they might be a damper in his plans. Something caught his attention, an aura filled with pure hatred. He was intrigued. He hadn't seen hatred this much in a while, and he was sure he could use this person to further his goals, so he used his skills in telepathy to dig deeper, and he was met with a whirlpool of memories and a cesspool of emotions that went with them. Happiness, curiosity, eagerness, drive, jealousy, love, fear, worry, hate and anger. The last two seemed to evolve into darkness, and it had only begun to grow. If left to manifest and ripe over the years without any interruptions, then he would be dealing with a very dangerous foe, so he knew what to do in order to sway this individual into his hands. It would be so easy and effortless. He had a plan. He laughed and laughed, and his friend that was in the tub was wondering what was causing said laughter, but that would be solved another time. Meanwhile, a certain black-haired boy paused from his business and looked up to the sky, feeling that something wonderful was about to happen to him, and it will help him in his dreams, that he knew. He was snapped out of his thought by his comrade who tapped his shoulder, and he got back to whatever he was doing with a smile on his face, much to the surprise of his comrade. "What's got you grinning like an idiot?" his comrade asked. "Nothing to concern yourself with. We better get back to the others though," he said. "I don't want them to start looking for us." His comrade nodded and they continued walking, musing about what just happened. Meanwhile, with the Tennysons. "Okay, you may call Ben a kid, but when he usually is curious about something, he doesn't sleep it off. Sure, he heard that curiosity killed the cat, but it also helped solve a lot of problems for the betterment of mankind. If man wasn't curious, would the world have evolved? No, it won't, so don't blame him if he wants to be curious." What piqued his curiosity though was the strange fact: Naruto and Gwen have been spending way too much time with each other. He noticed that it had started way back since Gwen had been kidnapped. Sure, she would need the company, but he would have expected his dweeb of a cousin to be fine on her own. Instead, she just steals his big brother away from him. Okay, stealing is a harsh word, but you get the picture. He will have to wait for another time they are alone though and sneak on them as either Gray Matter, XLR8 or Ghost Freak, the last alien. He doesn't really like to use for some reason, but hey, it was for the betterment of science that this case must be solved. Not really. According to his dweeb of a cousin, they were in Slatterville. Why, you ask? Well, because of some innocent mistake on his part, the RV stopped working. Now they have to wait here until their grandpa and Naruto fixes the RV. So boring, he said. I wonder if there's anything fun to do around here. He was walking till he found himself in some sort of garage. Talk about old school. Look at all this junk, Ben said, inspecting a wrench that he found. That is, until he heard his cousin call him. He said, and he turned to Ghost Freak, hoping to scare his cousin a bit. "Ben?" Gwen called as she entered the garage. "He was just in seconds ago calling all dweebs," she said as she looked left and right for him. That is, until she felt a chill and shivered. "What's the matter, Gwen?" a voice said. "You look like you've seen a ghost, Freak." Ghost Freak materialized himself, scaring Gwen a bit, something that amused him. "Ha ha, very funny, doofus. I'm not scared of you," Gwen lied, and as she was about to continue chiding him, they heard a noise followed by a mini quake, and then a crab-like robot emerged from the ground. "Name's Krob," Krob introduced. "Now hand over the Omnitrix, and I promise that you won't suffer much." "Ugh, you put the UG in ugly," Ghost Freak insulted. "Oh, and by the way, dream on, Claw Boy." Ghost Freak turned intangible as he was struck by Krob's claw. He reappeared behind the Merc and attacked, but was blindsided by what was sprayed on his person. Ghost Freak felt himself solidifying instantly and asked the $1 million question of the day: "What happened?" "Your protoplasm is now solidified," Krob explained as he walked to the distracted Ectonirite, "which means I can do this." Krob punched Ghost Freak, sending the alien to a crate, surprising the ghost. As Ghost Freak was recovering, he dodged an incoming strike by his opponent, and was sent flying to the wall where Gwen was hiding, who quickly went to her cousin's aid. "Who is this guy?" Ghost Freak asked, even though he was introduced already. "A dead guy, that's who," a voice said, and they turned to the exit to see the silhouette of Naruto at the entrance before he transformed into Rhombus. "Allow me to introduce you to my fist." Naruto punched Krob, who stumbled a bit before he gave an attack of his own to Rhombus, who skillfully evaded the move. Rhombus grabbed the claw of Krob with a smirk. He started to spin and spin before he gained enough momentum, then let go of his captive, sending him flying far away from their current location. Rhombus detransformed into Naruto, who walked to his brother as he detransformed as well. "Are you alright?" Naruto asked. "Why didn't he come after you?" Gwen asked, just realizing that Naruto also had an Omnitrix as well. Naruto looked at his girlfriend with a raised eyebrow. "It said it wanted the Omnitrix, and I'm guessing that he had some sort of tracker, so I ask again, why did it not come after you, who also has an Omnitrix?" "That's a really good question," Ben said, and Naruto was just confused, though he did think of an answer that might help. "I don't know, maybe mine was cloaked from trackers?" Naruto shrugged, and the answer was something Ben and Gwen accepted. "Come on, let's go see Grandpa," he said, and they left the garage unaware that they were being watched by another one of the mercs, who was intrigued at this new development. He'd have to contact Azimuth to see what's up with this situation. Later. "Just let me go 4 arms and I'll turn it into a seafood special," Ben said to their grandfather, as they discussed what happened with Ben earlier. Nobody noticed it except Naruto that Max had a sudden aura around him at the threat mentioned, an aura of familiarity, but that disappeared as quickly as it appeared. "Repairs are done, we're leaving," Max said tersely and walked into his RV, much to the protest of Ben, who followed later. And you didn't use magic because, Naruto asked his girlfriend, who huffed and crossed her arms over her chest. I don't know any spells and I'm still working on my mental controls. Gwen walked in the RV followed by Naruto, who just shrugged. The van started to move as both Naruto and Gwen sat down in front of Ben. Gwen looked out the window and back to Ben. No sign of Krob yet, she said, but then screamed when the RV shook and an electric saw was cutting through the roof. A hitchhiker? Naruto asked. Work, you stupid thing, Ben said as he was messing with his Omnitrix. I'll handle it, Naruto said as the roof was ripped and 6-6 showed his face. Naruto jumped and gave the merc an uppercut that sent him off the roof and in front of the incoming RV. Max had no problem driving over him, but he had to suffer the backlash that his damaged tires. 6-6 recovered and had a new target in mind, the blonde-haired pile of flesh that stood facing him, while the others escaped. Krob appeared beside 6-6. Remember me? He asked before chasing after the runners, leaving Naruto and 6-6 in a standoff. Come on, ugly. I'll use my fist to rearrange that ugly mug off your face, Naruto said, and 6-6 charged him, ready to end his life. Naruto ducked under a punch, then blocked a kick that followed before pushing the leg away and giving the alien a double punch on the chest, sending him flying a bit. 6-6 launched a grenade at Naruto, who caught it, and with an amazing set of reflex threw it away to some distance. And because 6-6 was machine, he couldn't sense him approaching in time to dodge the incoming grab to his neck. Naruto was being strangled and he was feeling his life force draining away, but he wasn't about to give up, so in a flash of green light, he transformed into an alien made of rubber. Naruto inflated himself like a balloon, setting himself free before transferring the inhaled air in his system to his right hand that was made into a giant fist. Goma Goma no, Giganto Pisatoru. The giant fist sent 6-6 flying away before it returned to normal and Naruto detransformed into normal mode. He flexed his hand and looked at the Omnitrix, remembering the time he found out about that alien and the resemblance his ability had to that of his all-time favorite hero, Monkey D. Luffy. Gotta thank Oda for giving me the idea to that skill set, he said, but as he was about to walk away in a rare act of arrogance, he coughed out blood into his hand. What the? He said, then looked down to see a katana stabbed through his stomach before it was pulled out, and his body dropped to the floor. 6-6 looked at his now dead opponent before he walked away to his original target, with a satisfied victory in his mind. With Gwen. Gwen was in a mine train watching her cousin mess with his watch when she suddenly felt a burst of pain cutting through her chest. She winced, holding her chest in pain, and got down on all fours, catching the attention of present company. Gwen, are you okay? Max asked his granddaughter as he went to help her up. Why do I suddenly feel like I'm about to lose something important? She asked, and Ben looked at Max, who shrugged. That is until Ben noticed something. Maybe because of him. Ben shouted and pointed at 6-6, who was locked and loaded, taking aim at the train. That is until Ben's Omnitrix beeped green. He noticed it, obviously sweet, and selected Diamond Head and pressed the dial. Diamond Head emerged moments later from the green light and jumped on the approaching 6-6, ignoring his grandfather's protests while falling into the deep chasm below them. Of course, Gwen and Max were worried. That is until they saw Diamond Head flying with 6-6, who didn't appreciate hitchhikers on his back and was trying to shake him off. They landed safely on solid ground, and Ben, seeing his chance, went to attack 6-6 but was stopped by Krob, who grabbed him and tossed him to the wall beside them. It was because of the combined effort of 6-6 and Krob that Diamond Head lost his match quickly, but as they were about to finish the down Tennyson, a grenade was launched, and a sleeping gas was all it took to knock out the two temporary allied mercs. Tetrax on his hoverboard was seen hovering over the knocked-out bodies of his enemies and hovered over to Diamond Head, who was just recovering from the combined attack. He picked him up on his back spikes and dragged him on the concrete, moving far away from the other mercs before violently tossing him on the hard concrete. Billions of beings on this planet, and the Omnitrix winds up on the wrist of two full hard youths, Tetrax said. At least the other one knows when to use his head. Well, like I told your buddy, this thing doesn't come off, Diamond Head said, and I can use my head too. Of course it doesn't, Tetrax said, ignoring the last bit. Its power utilizes alien DNA, which bonds to the host's genetic structure. It cannot be simply removed. Tetrax had to dodge a strike from Diamond Head before using his board to attack him. Your choice of wearers is based solely on brute strength. Have you ever paused to consider your actions at all? Actually, come to think of it, I have been ignoring some teachings lately, Diamond Head said as he recovered from the blow. I know I have trained with this alien as with others, and I could do more than just punch and kick. I don't know when I started to change. It appears that you are not as dumb as you look, Tetrax said after moments of silence. I take offense to that, Diamond Head said. I thought you were a bad guy. You're still alive, aren't you? Tetrax said, my mission is to retrieve your Omnitrix at all costs. But what about my brothers? Diamond Head asked. I said you're not both, Tetrax said. It's disturbing how little you know of this alien's strengths and weaknesses. You've barely even scratched the surface of its potential. Yeah, how do you know? Diamond Head asked. Tetrax removed his mask, showing he was of the same species of alien as Diamond Head, who looked at him in shock. You're me, the Omnitrix-wielding Petrosapien said. Wrong, I am a noble warrior. You are an impulsive annoyance, Tetrax said. The Omnitrix beeped and Ben de-transformed into himself as Tetrax observed. We have wasted enough time, Tetrax said, and he grabbed Ben by the hem of his shirt, much to his protests. Tetrax looked left and right for his hoverboard. A voice made him pause in his search, looking for this. He turned to see Krob holding his board, walking with 6-6 beside him, who was holding both Gwen and Max. You're not getting of the planet with the Omnitrix, Krob said, and just to be sure, I have some collateral. Where's Naruto? Ben asked, finally noticing that his brother isn't here. In fact, his brother hasn't been around for quite some time. You mean the blonde pile of flesh? Krob asked. How should I know? 6-6 spoke to Krob in his native tongue, to Krob informing him of the faith of said blonde. Krob just laughed. Well, that's 1 down, 3 to go. I don't get it, Ben said. 6-6 said that he killed the blonde one. Tetrax explained to Ben, who just stood frozen in shock at the news. It can't be true, Gwen thought. She didn't even notice the tears that were starting to form in her eyes. Nice try. But I know he's not dead, Max thought after his eyes caught something in the distance. Ben was just still standing in shock. He didn't notice that Tetrax had already gone to attack, but Krob saw this coming, so he fired beams at the Petrosapien, who was evading them before grabbing Ben and heading to safety. Stay here, Tetrax said as he dropped Ben, who was still frozen in shock, before going after his, Tetrax, board. The Guardian of the Omnitrix would have attacked had it not been for the energy construct that froze him and the others. They traced the construct to a red-skinned humanoid alien. Guardian? Max asked, much to the silent relief of Gwen. Guardian smiled in response before looking back at the mercs, specifically 6-6. I don't really appreciate being stabbed in the back, you know, Guardian said before he removed them from their temporary paralysis and attacking 6-6 directly. 6-6 tried to fight back with everything he knew, but Guardian was faster and stronger. Guardian grabbed the merc at the back of his head before smashing it on his knee, forcing 6-6 to stumble back a bit, but Guardian wasn't done. He punched the Sotoragian on his stomach, before appearing at his back, and gave his side a kick, sending 6-6 some distance while cracking some of the Sotragian's bone in the process. Krob and Tetrax were too busy watching the fight. They didn't notice a black and green goop moving on the ground, closing in on Krob before consuming the struggling merc. Tetrax was impressed seeing that Ben was using his head to attack a superior opponent this time, so he walked and picked up his board that was on the ground just as the body of 6-6 was dropped in front of him. So you must be Tetrax Rad. Asmith told me about you, Guardian said. You know Asmith? Tetrax asked, surprised at this. Guardian nodded and pressed the Omnitrix dial on his chest, transforming into Naruto, who had blood on his shirt, much to the fear of Gwen, who pulled him in a hug, sobbing in his chest. Naruto looked to Max for help, who just smiled at his grandson and waved, much to Naruto's annoyance. He looked back at Tetrax anyways. I know Asmith is the creator of the Omnitrix. He said that Ben's version is a prototype, while mine is a completed version. He was the one that sent me mine after all. I see, Tetrax said, and by that time, Krob was unconscious on the ground and a proud Upgrade was standing in front of them. Even I can use my head from time to time, Upgrade said, much to the amusement of Naruto and Gwen, who had dried out most of her tears. Pretty smart for a human, Tetrax said to Upgrade. Later, in the RV, the Tennysons were relaxing after a stressful day. They were in the middle of a conversation. So anyways, here I was, suddenly losing a lot of blood on the ground with a hole in my stomach and no help for miles, when all of a sudden, the wound healed just like that in a matter of seconds, Naruto said. Hold on, how come you can heal so fast? Gwen suddenly asked. I come from a clan that has that as a special trait, Naruto explained. I sort of forgot about that. Wait, doesn't that mean that if you can heal this quickly, your ex-family can too? Ben said, much to the surprise of Naruto. Well, it's a maternal thing, so the 4th Hokage can't heal as fast as me and my supposed twin. In fact, no one, including my mother who I inherited it from, cannot heal as fast as me or my twin. Because of what was sealed inside you? Gwen asked, and Naruto nodded to his girlfriend. Well, it doesn't matter. As long as you're all right, that makes me sleep another day, Max said behind the wheels as he was driving. So Ben, it looks like I'm going to have to up your training, Naruto said to his brother, who was just excited. Can't wait, I need it anyways, Ben said maturely. That is definitely true, Gwen said as they drove into the sunset of the desert, laughing all the way. Looks like Ben learned something today. Even he can get his butt handed to him from time to time if he gets too cocky.